Okay, so on our agenda, we have a thought and the pledge from Brenda.
Okay. Boy, I had fun looking up thoughts today.
Yeah.
The other time, I really liked Eleanor Roosevelt. I had a bunch of hers, a bunch of Mark Twain. Then it was like, oh dear, now what am I going to use? But I decided on this one from Stephen Hawking. A few years ago, the City Council of Monza, Italy, barred pet owners from keeping goldfish in curved bowls, saying that it is cruel to keep a fish in a bowl with curved sides, because gazing out, the fish would have a distorted view of reality. But how do we know we have the true, undistorted picture of reality?
Interesting. I like that.
How are they going to enforce it?
My opinion is right. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Somebody did that.
Coming in?
You told me.
Wow, well, I love that. That's fantastic.
You told me.
Help yourself, please.
Well, did you get some?
I already got round one, so I'll
You got round one?
sugar hits and then I'll.
Did you open the snickerdoodles already?
Yeah, I gotta have one each one, so help yourself.
Okay. So agenda item number 1, update from Randy Wynn on email from citizens and questions submitted by committee members during the past week. So he emailed me and said there were no emails from citizens. I don't know if anybody, if he got the answers and gave them to Scott. You didn't get anything from John to okay. So I don't know.
Because the only thing I'd asked of Randy was to get kind of a breakout of the fee structure that, you know, from what they get from the code enforcement people, just for, because all they get is just one number and that's all you get. There was no breakout of how that was. I'd asked him, hey, can you ask you? Never got anything back. So, but the number is so small, I don't know if that really matters. But
Yeah.
I was just my little pet thing that I've been debating back and forth. But anyway,
Okay.
I can deal with that. And I guess we'll have to, since make some decisions.
Or, well, we'll still have another meeting or two, so.
Yeah, because that was the other question. We'll get to that.
Jamie, are you doing judicial, non-departmental, and general government buildings?
That's what John sent us.
The judicial. So we have 2 left over from last.
Oh, that's right.
Is that what we're moving to?
Yeah,
do right
yeah.
now? Okay.
You
We're
have the
still
floor.
discussing.
Judicial?
Right. So I'm not the expert, so don't feel messenger. Right? She's the messenger. She's called the messenger.
We'll give you cookies.
There you go. Ready? I think we've been through enough of the subscription and memberships, travel and training, office supplies, the kind of all the things. There they are. Glasses, postage. I know court probably does the most postage, second to the finance department. Their telephone fees, pretty minimal, and then judge and attorney services. We do contract out for a prosecutor. Sometimes we need a temporary judge and our judge is on vacation or whatnot. We do pay for a translator and then any code enforcement hearing officer that's needed. Yeah.
Do we only have a Spanish translator or do we have?
No,
other
so
languages?
we'll get American Sign Language interpreters. Those are probably the most 2 common that I've seen. I'm probably pretty sure there's probably some other ones, but sometimes I'll take some time to get here.
So do you just have like a translator on your call or something?
I would have to ask Laura what they do. I know that we have a pretty regular staff as far as like Spanish translators. But I don't know like the sign language. I don't know where they're traveling from. So.
And it's not like a contract, is it per use?
Per incident kind of.
Yes.
Yes. Is it? Is that the
Yeah.
word?
Okay, sounds good.
There isn't any, there are no funds budgeted for that specific category,
For what specific category?
translator.
That's under judge and
So,
attorney.
yeah, it's under the.
Oh, it's down there, okay, never mind.
Witness and jury fees, that's set by the state of Utah. What should we do there? Warrants, so these are provided by our off-duty officers, and just kind of depending on what's happening with issued citations there and whatnot, depending on if we need somebody to provide that. We have seen that come down, and so that's why you see the significant drop from 7,500 to about 4,000. That's kind of seems to be the trend for the last 3 to 4 years. So
Is it going down because there are fewer needs, fewer
I would
instances, or
imagine
the
so,
cost is
probably.
different, or
no, the cost isn't different.
the
If
officer
anything,
charges-
the cost has been the same for the last 10 years.
So do they charge per hour that they're doing the service? Is that
Per
or
per visit,
per visit?
per instance that they have to go.
It has to be an
Issue
officer
warrant.
because there's liability
Yeah,
and
it has to
safety
be.
issues.
Please don't.
I have a question. Besides moving citations, what other things go through our local court?
Besides, well,
Code enforcement.
code enforcement,
Yes.
besides code enforcement.
So just
that's
those
really
two.
about it. Imagine.
Anything bigger than that then goes to.
Yeah. Same thing with bailiff. So these are our court hours. We have to have an officer on duty. And so those charges for the officer gets charged to the court fees. And again, same thing with those, with that drop from 14,000 to 8,500, just the training for the last couple years. To have an officer on that. I think they have court Monday nights, starting at 4. So and however long it takes for those out to get to the court for that day. And then they're part of the credit card fees, and then this year they're getting computers off. So their budget is pretty short and sweet.
Is there any
Lots
opportunity?
going on over there.
Is there any opportunity to improve efficiency or effectiveness or savings, or anything, to do with this group?
So they're mandated by the state of Utah, the court system of the state of Utah. So whatever it is that they need is very specific, and Laura is on top of that. They even get their own audit. And so, I mean, they everything down to like the kind of equipment they need to have in the court, and everything is mandated. They do the records, the way things are sent to the state. It's very structured.
This is probably pretty untouchable, right?
Pretty much. Pretty much. Probably the best thing to have is maybe an office supply or something. Any fun,
You use your copy of paper twice.
right? Yeah.
So the warrants and the bailiff would indicate, number one, you're doing fewer warrants and you're having less court time. Unless maybe you had a surplus last year.
Could have been, or I don't know about last year, but I know that these numbers have been the same for several years, and so that's why I felt comfortable dropping it as far as the budget numbers.
Let's see if that target is reached.
Yeah, it's not like we know how many warrants. we're
It's
Kind of hard to
Like
predict,
a lot of
actually.
Or how
Can't
many
predict crime.
court hours,
You made
so
an educated
that's
guess.
what, yep, it's, yeah.
You made an educated guess to
Yeah.
produce it because you figured it was a safe. So I don't want to say safe bet.
all good with that?
Sure.
Right, so non-departmental. So these are the expenses that are pretty much shared with citywide, all the funds, all the different departments. We anticipate a small unemployment cost only just because we should, not necessarily that we use it every year. That's why it is minimal. Computer services, so this is all of our antivirus, firewall systems, you name it, our backup, our Microsoft Exchange, which is our Outlook emails, our annual fees there, and anything that has to do with our computer system lines here. And then pretty much the same thing with professional services. TechServe is who we contract with for our IT services. And we're contracted with them, I believe, for another 2 years. I think we just renewed it. So they're really the ones that handle the budget for the computer services on 255 for the account 255. And I think we've had them for probably at least 10 years. They've probably been contracted with the city or more. Attorney HR, those are those anticipated needs if we need to reach out to an outside attorney or an HR attorney. I don't even know that we've ever done that, but neither here nor there. Just some outside consultation there. Our annual CASIL support fee, so that is our accounting software. It's the one that produces these fun reports that you guys are seeing. So that's what our software is. And then this year we're looking at adding a new CASIL user if it's needed. There's times where we're getting bigger, right, and adding staff. So there's times where we can't work with that login because there's too many users, not enough licenses. I think we have 11 type right now. And so not everybody knows not to stay in if they don't need to be in there. But like I said, we're getting bigger because that's what runs our utility billing, management, and then payroll, and then payroll. So there's quite a bit. There's quite a bit that goes on there. Okay. Our web hosting, Connection Magazine. TechNet is our.
I don't have my line in front of me. How much is the Connection Magazine?
It's about $850 a month.
I was going to say, I have some big questions.
I don't know if I'm the one who answers those questions. I don't do anything.
Well, I have a question on this connected to Cherry Days, because I see that on the budget, the Cherry Days committee is charging the city $8,000 for mailing for Cherry Days. And I remember years ago when we went from having our own Cherry Days magazine to the North Ogden Connection magazine. And the reason that in the end that was supposed to save us money. So I'm curious as to why they're going to be doing double and not using the magazine. Then also, I have family members that live in Harrisville and they get our magazine.
So it's based on the code.
But it's a North Ogden magazine. And so I guess my question is, we're paying $10,000 for how many houses that are in North Ogden? I know it's mentioned that before, but I didn't agree with it when you mentioned it. So I'm just bringing it up again.
Yeah, all I know is that they do it by zip code, and I don't know if some of those Harrisville zip codes.
Yeah, so they,
Harrisville
just
doesn't
as
do
far
it
as
by
I know on
default,
those bulk
so-
mailings, it's cheaper. It might be actually marginally cheaper to send it to more households, because if they do just a zip code run, it's like pulling one Excel file as opposed to specifying and breaking it out. So it's almost easier for them to just do, this is the zip code, even though they might have more magazines printed that go. So that you would pay more in the service charge of trying to split it than just
The
having
mailing
to
will
go
be
for
more, but or it might be cheaper, but the printing is going to be a lot more because they're printing a lot more magazines, right? And the other thing that I get a little upset about is my family members in Harrisville get their magazine in good 5 days to a week before I do. Ever since the pandemic, and I was told at the time that it was because of the pandemic, but March, I didn't get one in March at all. And
Your
most of
mailman
mine.
hates you.
I was gonna
That's
say,
okay.
yeah.
I'm nice to my mailman. So anyway, those are my complaints on the magazine, and I feel like we're paying double for 10 days, which we were told we would not. So,
That really bothers me. $8,000 is a lot.
Because you can add several pages to a magazine as opposed to for a heck of a lot less than
and
that.
I'm curious why they wanted to have their own mailer when we have the magazine and we've used them for years for charities.
So you have, let me see if I
I'm done.
heard you correctly. You have two basic concerns. One is the double charging, the 8,000 plus the 10,000. And then the extra houses.
Ryan Speltz, who does the magazine, explained that to us once. And it's probably my lack of intelligence that I still don't understand it.
Well, yeah, just say, is there a reason? You know, and if there is a reason.
I mean, I get that it might be cheaper to mail them, but if they're printing twice as many magazines, the printing cost is
Those
going
things
to
have
be.
got to cost a couple of bucks a piece, just
I don't
for paper.
Anyway, yes, you got it.
And even if it's not costing more, it's a waste.
It's kind of the
It's-
principle of the matter too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although how many people from Harrisville come to Cherry Days?
But the magazine is,
Well, yeah.
My
Well,
mother.
Well, she's talking about the
The
magazine.
magazine, not the Cherry Days.
yeah, the Cherry Days totally annoys me too, but just the magazine.
So,
What time do
okay,
you-
Ryan,
What?
who is the Cherry Days mailing going to go out to? Is it going to go out to all of 84414 or just North
North
Ogden
Ogden.
citizens?
North Ogden resident. So little, I don't know how much I want.
Yeah, do you want to explain to them you're on the committee?
Yeah, I'm on the Cherry Days committee. Lucky me.
Why did it come again? Yeah.
The reason for the magazine Hometown Connection going to Harrisville and Pleasant View, it is the zip code. It's a lot cheaper for the post office that they don't have to sort it individually. They can just do a whole, this is all going to the zip code and they're not pulling and sorting. It's a sorting cost that we're saving.
I would like to know the comparison with that and the extra printing cost. Though.
We can find out. I'll ask before.
I'm sure that that's something that will bring up.
And also, part of it is Ryan selling the ads as well. So the Hometown Connections has all the ads in there. He's selling them to businesses and they are paying that it's going out to more people than just North Ogden.
And that's another complaint. There's a lot of businesses in there that are not even in Ogden. They're in Salt Lake.
I called them up, it was like $450 for a quarter page ad for
But
3 months or
that's,
something.
the
It's
contract
pretty
that we
expensive.
signed said that the city has, what, 8 pages of content and then the rest is all his. So
For
we're
ads, whatever.
ads, articles, whatever, we don't really control it. But now the Cherry Days brochure, the committee that's putting this together, or the turning Cherry Days, they don't want to just be in the Hometown Connection or the home, I can't even remember.
I think
Connection
you're right,
magazine.
Yeah, they want their own individual brochure booklet that's just for Cherry Days, so that whole week you can have your booklet and have a nice printed up whatever.
That's how it was done before.
Yep. That you can go, that it'll have all the information in there and you won't have to look for your magazine or, and we'll make sure it gets to every single, we'll mail it to every address. But I don't know why it's $8,000.
Who puts the stamps and all that?
It's bulk.
But how do you fine tune it to this particular?
Well,
list of
there's also
addresses?
going to be,
It's a
yeah,
bulk.
I don't know,
I mean, who does that? Do you know?
probably.
Maybe you don't know.
Probably whoever I can find that question out. I'm in the meeting tomorrow night, so I can find out.
How do
Oh,
they,
your
how do they fine
committee
tune
is?
it to just North Ogden?
Yeah, why can they do that? And the magazine can.
That
But
might be why it costs more too, because we are
That's true,
only
too.
fine tuning it to North Ogden addresses.
So this is a per one
One
issue
time.
Mhm.
the magazine
$8,000
is $10,000 a year.
per 12 issues, so that's sort of making sense.
So I don't know the number on this, but last year North Ogden, we did that magazine, the old style magazine, for charity, the newspaper, not the magazine. And that cost more. That was not just your normal hometown connection, but I can't remember what we paid on that.
I don't know.
But it's like when you start doing specialty stuff, it gets expensive. I don't know, that's all I've been told. But I'll find out why it costs so much.
That's a lot.
How many?
On
how
money
many
that's
houses?
not guaranteed to be repaid.
Right.
Okay.
How many addresses or?
We have about, what, 6,300 residents, 7,000 residents, or addresses, not residents. See, about $1 a residence.
Include only residents, not businesses?
That includes businesses, so if we were to- if we were
Every
to send,
address
yeah.
in the whole city.
Everybody that has a water connection has that. It's about 7,033.
Oh, no, I don't have a water
So-
connection.
I know.
Mine
But
not.
you do still get a bill.
But that averages
I should
about,
say utility bill.
Okay, that sounds better.
So about
I
$1
thought I
a
was being
residence.
left out.
that's, I mean,
Thought maybe that's why I wasn't doing this.
that really doesn't seem like that much to me. Or if you could look at it that way, $1 a residence. Including postage.
Okay. TechNet is our salary survey website that we use to do market studies. That's a yearly cost, and then the EAP is the employees assistance program. Yeah, program. So for mental health services, legal services, anything like that. So it's actually a really good program. And then Flash Vote is that new software agreement that we just did this spring. And then the $10,000 is for a 3-year contract.
When do they start?
So I don't know about what they're doing on that.
Well, they started, well, this is for next year.
Oh, so I believe this is the first year.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so this will be, so it's included in next year's. Yeah.
So the 10 is going to be every year, or does the 10 cover all 3 years?
No, the 10 that we,
So it would be 30,000 total for 3 years.
What I've seen, that's because it's a number of things over the year. And that's, in fact, I was, as I was driving down here, I'm like, what? You know, because sometimes I think the city council can get in this bubble, so to speak. And you know exactly what to do, and then yet somebody comes in and says, I don't agree.
Why are you pointing at me?
You said you don't agree yesterday.
Oh, go ahead, you're
So
totally
it's-
justified
right.
pointing to me.
Yeah,
I
that's
own
what
it.
do. I don't know what to do.
No, but yeah, so, but the, you know, I think that's well worth the, anyway, sorry, keep it moving.
all right, so this insurance is our liability insurance. Again, this is citywide. The reason why for the cost increase, expenses go up. Last year we had a significant increase. It used to be like 240,000, and so last year it was about a $40,000 increase, and then this year we're expecting a little bit of increase. For last year, the increase was because the underwriters were anticipating the increase in building costs. And then we also did an increase in our cybersecurity. And so we're carrying that over into this year, and then we're also adding the public safety building. And until that building is finished, we don't know what that number will be. So that's why the $94,000 increase, it could be more, it could be less. That is an estimate. The YCC contribution, the city does participate for the YCC. It's an annual fee paid at the beginning of the year. We're not doing anything currently in the economic development account there this year. We haven't for quite a bit, and that's okay. And then the mayor's public relations fund. So I did reduce this just to $400. I think it says $4,000 on your sheet. As part of just balancing the budget. And then personnel related costs is at $5,500. This is just you know, for additional incentives for the employees if Like last year, we did sweatshirts, we did these sweatshirts, some different kind of sweatshirts, those kind of things.
Unless I'm on the wrong one, mine says 4,000.
That's yours.
Personal related.
Yeah, so I moved it to 5,500, just based on last year's cost to cover everybody getting a sweatshirt. And then the miscellaneous is just that, it's what could possibly come up, right?
So, on that one, just for edification of other folks sitting here, is back in just only 3 years ago, the insurance and bond thing was 261. So, I mean, we're borderline 400, did you say? What did you say?
Mhm.
So, that's in 3 years.
Cost
That
is
is
last year
insane.
was amazing how much it went up. And then we've added more.
Is there any way that you
equipment.
project year to year how that works? Because that can kill your budget.
I wish I was an actuary.
It
They
wouldn't
make
be-
a lot of money.
Yeah. College friend that literally has 2 votes anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, we've also added 2 officers since then, added more staff. I mean, costs go up. I mean, yeah. There's so much that's entailed in that.
Chris, which line item?
Oh, it was the insurance, basically the, what was it, 104.9, yeah. Yeah, because to me, that's the one thing, if you start looking at the big stuff, that the big stuff is 15, 20%. It supersedes everything else that you're trying to fix, so anyway.
Right, and that's also the one we have no control over.
Yes, it's a direct cost, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so that's the one thing that frustrates me, but yeah. What was your next? What was the next one? What do you want?
are we ready to move on?
Well, I don't know.
Everybody good?
Maybe- Yeah. That, I mean, to me, that's the horrific thing. And I don't know.
It's in there somewhere. Yeah.
It was the one that came out with, the police department and the events.
What is it?
Buildings and grounds?
Buildings and grounds.
Oh,
These are the 2 that we finished the other week.
So this one, this department has changed significantly from last year. Sort of.
So get my pen out.
Wait a second, when you said general government's buildings is 21, that's entitled buildings and grounds.
Uh-huh. It's 1051.
Right, I've got the yellow sheet here. It's not yellow, but. I've got it.
Right.
I'm just looking for something that says general government.
It doesn't.
It doesn't,
It
it
says
says
that.
that. So,
This is
Buildings
what it
and-
actually says, but it's the same thing. That's what she means by that.
Okay, it is.
Yeah.
so this one has grown a little bit, only because we're trying to capture all of the general government buildings into one account. It was broken out several years ago where the utilities for the city hall and police, and then also the senior center and those building maintenance costs were just in this, or really this used to be like a 3-account fund. But, you know, after building the public works building, and then that one got added. And the question came up last year of why the parks building wasn't in here. And so we added that this year, and then we've also added the new public safety building. So it looks like the expenses have gone up a lot, which they have. However, we've broken them out where the city hall and the police department used to be lumped into one account for the utilities, and then lumped into another account for the building maintenance. And so we've since separated that out. So that's why you'll see city hall going down a little bit, and then the public safety building is new this year. We've also added cleaning services. I don't know that it made it to your yellow sheet.
The
Cleaning
new
contract,
contract.
10,000.
Yeah,
Change
no,
to
that's
insurance.
different. No, it's an actual account number.
Oh,
It's actually 1051, 250. Oh, yes, it is. It's on the yellow sheet. Okay. So I'm not sure. So what we've done there is we used to have a cleaning contract for all of the buildings, and we've since brought that in-house. We hired an individual to provide those services except for the police building. And then moving forward, they'll have their own cleaning contract for that building for now.
But this is motor pool.
That's because motor pool is handling the building maintenance.
Oh,
And so these expenses need to be transferred to the motor pool.
So you're talking about James?
Yes.
So I'm not being critical, but why would there be two separate cleaning services when it's buildings a building? Is it because it's police stuff and you can't? You
Yes,
can't
you
just
do
let
have to
anybody
be-
in to clean around
Right,
evidence
you do
and
have to
stuff.
be cleared by BCI.
So the
and-
cost per person is a little higher because of the extra clearances they have to have.
Yeah, well, yeah, it would be for sure. And then that is a pretty big building coming on, it's about 21,000 square feet,
the new one.
the new one. And so we would have to actually hire at least one full-time, if not maybe 1.5 or 2 people to handle that. I mean, there's 7 sets of bathrooms there. And then it's just cheaper to have a cleaning contract.
A separate one from all the other buildings.
Yeah.
Okay, so just tossing this.
Because right now that the individual that's doing all the cleaning is part-time, he's 20 hours a week. And able to have a little bit of the cleaning efforts.
Dump that
With this building, you know, over there at Public Works, up at Parks.
They do all of
And
that?
that's a lot. Mhm.
That's within that person's ability and time to do.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's like 20 hours a week.
Right now.
Right now. At that, it's gonna like triple it or something. The time alone, let alone
Right,
the responsibility, the clearances, the time.
building maintenance, all that.
So
It's just
What
a
if-
totally different job than the other building.
That's gonna be a big
Yeah.
building.
So what if,
I mean, the floors alone.
Go ahead, sorry.
so what if we were to flip it around backwards instead of saying, have this part-time person take on the police building? Give the part-time person another job and have the police building clean people who have granted more clearances and liability insurance and everything than they need to do the other buildings, have them take on this smaller job.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking. Combine them.
Wouldn't they be a higher hourly
Rather-
rate if they
Right,
already
much
have
higher. and-
clearances and everything?
Right, but
Yeah.
if you have that service already and add another 20 hours, maybe it would be more economical overall than having the two separate.
A single contract.
Well, I think
Just so you know too,
he's, yeah,
the gentleman that is doing this, he's got Down syndrome. It's kind of he does a good job, but it's kind of our contribution to the community to help those who are in need. So he could
You would
take on
probably
there.
have to do the whole
There, so he's, he works 20 hours and he's not highly paid, but it's kind of, it's our contribution to helping people in the community.
It's sort of a charitable thing for him.
It helps him out, and he's very confident, he's a good kid.
Why we're contracted.
he's awesome.
Yeah, but that's just so you have that information, it's,
I think we're paying, we paid him less. If you hired a.
he does a good job.
He does
And it
good,
overwhelms
that's
it. Just so you have all the.
Used to work at Gold's Gym, and I thought, this is kind of a step.
I'm good with just not questioning that at all.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you.
Sandy, I have a commitment, they asked me to come over and help with the opening of the pantry, so if you have any questions for me, I just wanted to come
Okay.
back, we just got back, so if you have any, I've got to leave in about 10 minutes, but if you have anything specifically I can help with, please ask now, if that's okay. Any questions? If not, that's fine.
There was a discussion earlier. I don't know if you want to share your opinion on it. We talked to Brian. He's going to give us an answer. But looking through the budget for the cherry days, they are within their budget is $8,000 for mailings for an event scheduled to go to each home. And Brenda said that several years back, the council decided there wouldn't be a Cherry Day schedule sent out, that it would go into the magazine.
Cherry Days magazine that was published.
Well, no, it would
It
go
would be
into the Connection
But you
magazine
knew there was a Cherry Days magazine published.
Before.
Historically.
previously, yeah.
Here's how I look at it,
Uh-huh.
is they have X amount of dollars. Where they get the rest of the money, I have no idea, but they've got limited money from the city, so if they, I don't know whether they get $8,000 to send it out, I don't know whether they're gonna get $9,000 for this, or they get. I had a conversation earlier with Councilmember Barker today, and just to make sure that we're not totally commercializing this, that there are free things for those families who can't afford maybe to come up with $10, because this is a community event. And we've talked about doing some nostalgic type things, because our goal is to get this back. This is a Cherry Day celebration. Somehow it got turned into a 4th of July celebration. So, you know, we talked about, we have like a cherry pie baking contest, or, you know,
Used to.
yeah, some nostalgic things to focus us back on Cherry Days instead of. So, but my take is this, and I said this last night. You got X amount of dollars from the city. You're gonna have to figure out where to get the rest, because that's all you're getting from us. So if they want to spend $8,000 to mail something out, they're gonna have to find some place to get $8,000, right? And I think they're gonna find, just my personal opinion, but it's not as easy. With $8,000 or $10,000, they're gonna have to look at this budget and say, okay. Because I agree with the fact that you need to kind of step into this thing, particularly with changing the dates and the approach. You know, we don't know what's gonna happen with this, so. You know, maybe this is gonna force them to step into some things and say, well, can't do this year, it's a success, maybe we look for that in the future.
Mhm.
Just because it's on their budget, on a sheet of paper, they've got to come up with the money, because they've got $50,000 from the city with an obligation to repay that.
But what is the consequence if they don't raise the money to pay that back?
That's the risk. But here's my take.
Mhm,
That would be 25% of what they're projecting.
mhm.
If they can't come up with 25%, I think the message is, this isn't the direction we want to go. So the city does potentially have $19,000 at risk.
Mhm.
But if you looked at that budget, I think the bottom line was revenues over expenses of 77,000. Is that my recollection?
Mhm, mhm.
So 19 is like what, one fourth of that, 25%. So I think there is risk. There's risk in everything, but I think it's fairly minimal
Okay.
risk.
And I also wonder if, I'm noticing like on the North Ogden, not the official city, but on some of the North Ogden Facebook groups, there are people who are not happy about, they're saying, you know, that it's been on the 4th, my family always comes to visit on the 4th. They're not gonna come back the next weekend to go to the parade and go to
That's a possibility.
is the committee looking at that, and are they?
First of all, I'm surprised you have some unhappy residents. So
You are? Where were you last night?
I'm very surprised at that aspect of things. But you know, yeah, there's traditions.
Yeah.
That's how somehow, if you look at it, somewhere along the line, you got changed from celebrating Cherry Days to the 4th of July, right?
Yeah, that's been most people's, who's alive now, memory is the 4th of July. So to them, when you talk about traditions, that they're gonna think you're changing the tradition.
That's, you know, change isn't easy, but we even talked about, you know, would it be cool to have the largest cherry display? Take place
Brigham
in
City
the-
does that with Peach Days.
Yeah, but That's
Well, and I grew up in Guernsey. It's okay.
You're talking Sheridan.
What do you mean the largest, what?
Kind of like a cherry fair contest.
A picture made out of cherry.
Well, I
Oh,
mean, no
oh,
Or a
commercial
big
cars.
display, or, you know,
Okay,
because I think the goal is to
Yeah.
focus this back on Cherry Days without giving
Okay.
up the patriotic aspect.
I tell you,
Well,
my
they're
cherry
just in the cherry
trees are in full blossom right now.
Well, I used to have.
So, and it's all dependent on
Really, really,
their
really,
harvest.
really. Yeah.
If there are even any to harvest.
well, maybe the public just needs to be educated, that it's,
Well, Sandy, that's good. This is gonna sound really terrible. But what I have found is a lot of the citizens who complain aren't interested in the facts. They're emotionally, it's emotionally done, and I wish they would seek out the facts.
yeah.
You know, it's just like my brother calls me last night and says, hey, I was watching TV and the state president from Coldwater came on and said that this could have been avoided. He discussed this with the mayor months ago.
The
Look,
flooding or the shooting?
The flooding.
Oh, flooding, okay.
Look, I'm old. The only discussion that ever took place on this flooding was when Tim Jones called me one morning. He couldn't make the meeting that night and Chad came and talked about that. I'd like to know who called me and discussed this with me because I must be getting way old. Now, they did bring up the issue. I'm not denying that, but for them to say to discuss this with the mayor
Yeah,
months in advance. Because I would have said, you know, I don't know a whole bunch about this. Let's talk to the public works guys.
yeah.
Because I don't know. So, anyway, I've got it done, but if you have other questions.
I want you to know that I was on the call last night and I kept raising my hand and I couldn't get in. I heard every word and I appreciated it. I just couldn't figure out my computer enough to speak my mind, but I heard the meeting last night.
I'll just report when this got back from visiting.
Hey, text, don't call.
Is
'cause I
everybody
can't answer.
okay? Is,
I was
Yeah,
desperate. I didn't know what to do.
They're
Have
very
they been
anxious to
on
come,
leave
they're
or
very
not
anxious to
yet?
come back
okay,
and work for the citizens of North Albany. They're shook up, there's no doubt about it. Those are
yeah.
awful things, but they are very dedicated and anxious to get back and help out the city.
Glad to hear that.
Okay, I'll get out of your hair.
Thanks, man.
Gotta go to
Okay,
baseball or
but
something.
anyway, Sandy, that's how I look at
Thanks,
it.
Sam.
They can put whatever they want on the paper, they're just gonna have to figure out what to do to do it, because like I told John, we're not signing any more contracts. We've signed what we're signing.
Okay. Thanks, ma'am.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan. We'll be waiting to hear back from you.
Okay.
Okay.
So is there a separate yellow sheet for Cherry Days?
Cherry
I know,
Days
you
is a
should
done
have
deal.
it.
I mean, I just saw this.
Last
That's
night,
their budget.
so
Yeah,
last night
that's
during, did you watch city council last night? So the committee, the Cherry Days committee came to the city council. They came actually the week before. And they said, we'd like to request additional funds. They gave the council, not anybody else, it wasn't shown to us. They gave the council their plan, their budget, whatever.
Which is what we got. from
And
John.
what we got, yeah, last night. And the council said, well, let us think about it, come back next week. So last night they were here. They asked for, instead of the original 25 they were given, another 25.
50? They wanted 75.
As it's 75 on this sheet.
Yes, they wanted 75 to start with.
Yeah. So, and the council voted, the council gave them 6,000 left over from last year and 19,000 they're giving to them, but expecting them to raise enough money and have revenues enough during the event to pay the city back the 19.
But they also gave them the 25.
Yeah,
So
the original
total they
25.
gave was 44,000.
Yeah, did I say that correctly? And if they don't get enough contributions, if they don't have enough revenue at the carnival, the city may not get that 19,000 back. But the council, for the most part, said, They had specifically,
Faithfulness.
Councilmember Ekstrom said she
Fail.
had faith in them to be able to raise that, and we wanted the council to be happy. And the committee, and what we want the Cherry Days committee to be happy. My response to that would be, why don't you want the citizens to be happy? Because I don't think the citizens, sorry, I gotta say how I feel here. I don't think the citizens, for the most part, would agree with that.
Want to subsidize charities with tax. money.
You know what, when
It's
the
just
city
too
gives
big.
you 25 and they say, this is your budget, do the rest of us get an option to come back in and say, yeah, no, I need 50. 25 was a good start, but 50, and actually 75, but we'll settle for.
You're getting her wound up. Just
Yes.
Sorry,
You're-
I can't help, yeah,
No,
I
you're
just
fine.
get,
You warned us that you get this way.
It-
Yes.
I remember.
I'm not yelling at anybody here
No,
though, so
but here's.
pat me on the back for that.
But here's the thing, is that at least you come. Everybody else that may complain later on, doesn't show up, doesn't say anything, doesn't speak their mind.
He gets mad and.
Thankfully you do,
punch. He
because
doesn't like
if you didn't, I mean, there's 3 people that go to city council on a regular basis. They're sitting here. So, I mean, the hilarious part about this is that I have a brother-in-law that just, where's my time here? And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I have
there's a thing
neighbors.
you can Zoom. You don't even have to come. He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I don't have time for that. I'm like, you don't work. I just, I'm like, oh, that
Yeah.
interrupts my,
Watch it on YouTube for the next week and then email the city council.
Yeah.
heaven forbid.
They're
Anyway,
good.
moving on. Okay, sorry, we got
You're
sidetracked.
giving him all the work.
I know,
Contagious.
it is.
All right,
But-
where were we at? Jamie,
Yeah.
are you in charge of this?
I am not in charge of this.
So, but Jamie,
Where were we
you'd
at?
like to.
We're
talking about
continue
cleaning
with
stuff, but I
government
think-
buildings?
Alright,
Or you
so,
want-
So
Utility.
I asked
other
you
things that
for
are
that.
involved, right?
That's too much sugar.
My first aid cabinets are AED machines, those things in the building. Anything that has to do with building maintenance, per se, changing the filters in the furnaces, painting a wall, I guess, those kinds of things. And that's really the basis of this one. It's very clear.
So the city,
Expenses have gone up 50% over last year
For the same
for
items,
utility costs.
just like when you go to buy gas or
Yeah.
bananas or eggs.
Yeah, it's
What does RMP stand for? Again,
Rocky Mountain Power.
thank you.
so the 1051, 250, that's specifically for the new police department.
Yes,
That's what-
that's the charges for
That's what it says.
3 buildings, yeah.
So run that by me again, the utilities have doubled since when?
Since, have you looked at your utility bill, like our utility? bill?
Yeah, but I don't think
Mine
it's
have
done.
not,
It's been
so,
since
yeah.
last, it's been since last, about May, or actually, I think it was June or July. Like they have, the utility bills have doubled, if not more.
The church
You're
is
talking
twice
electricity, gas, both?
Yeah. The actual cost per
Per kilowatt
kilowatt.
hour.
You get switched to LED for everything, is that what you're saying?
Oh, I know that we have in the 2 buildings, obviously, at least the public
Yeah.
safety building will be updated, but.
We don't keep getting any more incandescents. Aren't they doing away with us?
Yeah.
Banned. Crazy.
Any other questions on general government building?
So the half for the senior center, the other half gets paid by somebody else.
Weaver County.
Weaver.
Oh, why did I think it was?
They're making contributions.
They make a $12,000 contribution.
So there's a manager,
Bella? That's over at the senior center. Mhm.
I'm surprised her, never mind. Hey,
Yikes. Okay.
I got a question. On the Rocky Mountain Power and Dominion. Seems like, I know, seen and heard advertisements for, I think we call it an energy survey or something like that, where they'll come and send somebody out and look at your situation and make recommendations. I don't know how to do it. But it's a service they provide to see how, if there are improvements that we can do as a homeowner. And there's other things, maybe
I don't know, that was a good question.
energy survey, and see if they have recommendations.
I know they brought out HVAC to make sure that all of that is functioning as it should. But that's where the heating and air. I know that they were out just, I think last fall, to make sure that,
Right. And
but as far as like
maybe check-
energy efficient, I don't know that.
So is that everything for government business?
Any other questions?
Everybody?
Not specifically.
Then agenda number 3, are there changes that have been made to the budget on things that were, you know what I mean, things that have already been presented to us and we thought it was certain numbers, or there are any big changes to
So
that?
this is, I'm passing out what the council got last night, and this is the best way for me to communicate what the changes are. Hopefully it captures all of them, it may not, so please don't hold me to that, because once we start diving in and changing things, it's really hard to keep up on the yellow sheets. It's just easier to start working in this direction and then go back and change the yellow sheets and update them for the department heads once the budget has been finalized.
This changed since the
So this
27th
has
of April.
changed slightly from last night. I just didn't know if you needed to know. So we're not gonna worry about revenue. So let's start on page 2. About halfway down with the council. There wasn't any changes there to the expenses. Yeah.
I will keep my mouth shut. How's that?
Right. So no changes to council as far as what was on the yellow sheet, and judicial, the one for 1042. So what reflects here are the warrant and the bailiff changes that we had already discussed.
Okay.
In the recorder, I believe.
Excuse me, I just found,
Yeah.
this. I'm trying to catch up.
Sorry.
1042, that's
So
a whole
1042,
category, a whole column with the little subcategories.
Yeah. So 1042 is judicial, so these are account numbers, sorry.
Okay.
And that's how I refer to it.
I get it. I see the string of 1042s, their prefixes.
And so all the way
Changes.
to the end, the last column is the difference between
this-
what happened at the beginning of April and what happened since. And so that's going to be your difference column.
Okay, so
All the
I
way
see 2008
to the right.
over here on the bottom of page 2, and the rest of it's on the top of page 3, right?
I'm sorry, I just assumed you were familiar with it because I know that you are.
So once I catch on to the lingo and
Got
and
it.
the system.
Got it.
So and then we have the 3,500 and 6,100.
So
Those
those are
three
the ones that we talked
things
about
are the changes.
just today. And then in the recorder budget, 3 from the bottom, 1043, 690. I do believe in your yellow sheet that used to say 3483.
What does
Well, that does for last year.
this year's?
And so if you look, so that one is 2023 budget. Yeah. And then so we
looking
dropped
for-
that to $100.
Okay, so the delta would be over here on the right.
Yeah.
Right hand side that has 0.
No,
That means
that's
it means that there's no changes.
from
then-
April.
But there's that one.
She's
change
pointing out
from
what the yellow
your
sheets
yellow sheet.
changed. 'Cause
So
the
as
yellow
I
sheet
said, I
came-
can't keep up on every single change on the yellow sheet, and so this is the best way for me to communicate to you what has changed possibly from the yellow sheet is this column right here. Will be that last column.
So from 22 to 23,
So this one is the
From here.
22,
Right, I
23
got
budget.
that, I got that.
Okay.
It went from there to $100, so it's a
So
huge.
this one is more likely what landed on the yellow sheet.
Right, so there's a big change
This
from
is
there to
the
there,
change.
but from the last yellow sheet to here, there's no change.
That's the assumption,
But we're not done yet.
but we're not done yet, right? All right, so in finance, just dropped in postage for the 1045, 245, the amount was 967. Then administration, we did add some travel there. We've asked Bryce to take on some IT responsibilities, especially when the new public safety building comes on. And so he's going to go do some training for our cybersecurity. For that building. We did reduce the postage. It's coming in a little bit lower than for this year. It seems to be trending that way. I think Bryce talked about how they do a lot more automated and less paper. So page 4. We didn't make any changes in the human resources department.
You say that the admin fee offset is changing. Did you say that?
Did I say that yesterday? I said it did change because we added a part-time employee
Okay, so,
for the 1047, yeah.
so they're different for each one of these from what, well, the admin fee isn't on the sheet. Forget it.
Yeah, they're not on there. Non-departmental, we talked about that today, so you wouldn't have seen this change, but the change for the $2,400 in computer services, I talked about last night, if you remember, I said we were adding some cybersecurity software to help with our Wi-Fi connections and our remote users, just to make sure that everybody's safe there. The mayor's public relations fund, we did talk about that. I had it as 4,000 on the yellow sheet. It didn't make it to the budget here, but then I did add it dollars. So that's why that's 400. 400, not 400.
Did you say 4,000?
She did.
On the
Okay.
yellow sheet, it says 4,000.
Oh,
but I
okay.
dropped it to 400.
Yeah, I wondered about that because we had talked about that as well, how, what you didn't only have a few $100, but on that sheet it's
Okay. I know, so it's, right?
That's because he wants to reward the citizens that come to council meetings.
That's what I've been waiting for. There's like a pin or something.
I've been coming for a year.
The last thing he wants to do is reward us.
I think on the personnel related costs, I think it was originally 4,500 was it? I know we just talked about it and then went to 5,380 and then now it's at 55. I think that's just more of a balancing, kind of even that out. And then in government buildings, we just talked about that, so there probably would be any changes that you're aware of, and there wasn't any from the time I could do until now. We go to page 5 for the public safety police department.
What's the difference in salaries and salaries cares?
Oh, so that was CARES money that we received, COVID money in 2020,
Oh,
2021, and because it's still on the record for this year, so like next year it'll drop off. Yeah. When we received the CARES funds, that's where we applied it to.
So when that drops off, you're gonna have a $450,000 deficit in the police budget.
No. So that was the budget for 2020,
Prior
2021.
years.
So their prior year actuals.
Right. But did you say you're still getting it?
No, we're not getting it.
You didn't spend it all.
We did. We applied it to the police salaries. That's why it's in here
But just for that year, right?
for just that year. Yeah.
But because she's gone back 5 years, it shows on here.
Okay, so you only got it for that
For that
year?
1 year. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And it looks like that top line went up kind of
Right.
correspondingly to make up for the lack of that. Went from 911 to 1,006,000.
So so when we received the money, we had to show where we spent it, and we had to show that for the audit. And so that's why the salary is still the same. It's just when we got the revenue, we had to show where we spent it. Does that make sense? So I mean, we still pay the wages, we just use those dollars.
So this is kind of like them put together.
Okay. So you'll see this, you'll see the motor pool go down for each of the departments just a little bit. It's just reallocating personnel. You guys have heard probably several times that we've had changeovers and people moving in different departments, and this is a reconciliation of that. So you'll see that number change moving forward in the respective departments. Computer services went down 1,700 just because I moved that over into the government building for utilities for the police station. That was that is their Comcast internet services. So that was moved over to. And then the small equipment, so that slight change. When this came out last night, the drone was removed, and then last night after that discussion, I said, that's what that is.
So did you put the full 6,000 or just the?
That back.
And if there's a contribution, some donation that somebody makes, which was expected or hoped for,
Already got.
is that gonna
Yeah.
not get spent? I assume.
So the donation
Has to
will
be
be
accounted.
applied to,
that
will be applied
6,000
to that, yeah,
will just remain in the city.
Right.
If somebody donates,
in the general fund.
or at least you're prepared to do it.
I don't believe there were any changes in planning. As far as expense wise, we did have a not part-time, I should say, a half-year planner originally in there, and then we moved that to where it's full-year planner. Any day, right?
Yes. Hoping to
But you
post
also
this
lost
week or-
another full-time that you didn't replace, correct?
Right, yeah.
So it's, yeah,
So
so it's not like you replaced a half-time person with the full-time, it's, you replaced a 1.5 with a 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what they were saying last night in council, that if we can get our, either if the building and planning applications justify it or our permits come up, that we can help pay for that to be back to a 2.5 person department.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
I really don't know that we'll need it, even in the busiest times where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Kai and I were, so that was 1.5, we're
yeah,
doing well. And when it was 2.5, it really gave him more work or more time to work in the building department.
yeah,
So two FTEs for a city this size, I think is going to be really good. And unless we have like the economy ramps back up,
yeah.
then maybe
Yes,
we'll need that back. But
Okay.
for now, I think we're going to be.
And maybe you're gonna get to this, but what happened to the half person in building?
So the next budget, you'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, so the
So
next
point it out.
department, you'll see.
Okay.
The building inspections, you'll see that came out. But, what, 38,000, and then motor pool lease, again, that dropped just because of that reallocation that I spoke of a minute ago. No changes in the public safety community service department. And then moving on to streets and highways. Again, that motor pool lease drop there. We did increase the snow removal expenses.
Whoa.
About $65,000. Yeah. We'll do a budget amendment for this year because we need to.
And where
So-
does that money come from?
So it's Class C roads funds, and what that is the fuel tax that they charge at the pump. And it's based on a calculation, so the state collects the tax, and it's based on a calculation of mileage within the city. And the city goes in and updates the mileage based on, new developments that come in, and they run a calculation and spit out this is what. So right
Yeah,
now.
but are you saying that they're not changing that from the state, right? They don't care how much snow fell.
So we get, no, so we get an allocation, right? So like this
Mhm.
year's 900,000. So we get an allocation and it's very specific on what we can spend those dollars on. And so the dollars can be spent on obviously snow removal, street projects, safety sidewalks, painting lines on the street. So it has to be very specific to roads and sidewalks. And so to help cover a lot of the snowplow efforts and snowplows themselves, that's where the money is allocated to.
And since we spent more this year, than we thought we were gonna
Then we
spend,
have, yeah.
we have to,
Then you're gonna have more potholes and.
So
less
where
stuff.
They are.
where does that extra come from? Because, you know, say.
General funds,
Okay,
that's
that
dollars.
was,
Yeah, so the whole fund is not covered by BNC road money.
right.
Because the effort is to maintain the roads as much as possible with those dollars.
so this is a reaction.
So is it like does it come from like rainy day that the mayor talks about? Do you just have
The
extra
general
money in the
fund.
general fund to make up the difference of what the snowplow cost?
So
What
as
was
a,
budgeted?
so as a revenue as a whole, right? So basically sales tax dollars, if you will, that picks up the rest of the street. So all of these revenues equal $11 million, and all the expenses has to equal 11 million. And behind the scenes, and you've heard them talk about it, behind the scenes, you know, the calculation of, okay, so this is what we're spending on police, and so that's why they're very they're very adamant of talking about how property taxes goes to just the police fund, but the police fund isn't 100% covered by,
Right. Yeah.
right?
The delta
So
has
it's
to
kind
be-
of that same idea with Class C road
Okay.
funds with the streets,
Something's gotta cover the difference.
right? Because you'll see down at the bottom where there's transfers to the capital projects fund, and you'll actually see where it says Class C road funds, transfers to capital projects to do road maintenance.
So it's colored money, basically. You can't.
Yeah,
Earmark.
So it
except,
gets fixed.
except there's a problem with like electric cars because they're not paying any tax for driving on the roads.
Yeah, so they're starting to look at a road usage charge, the RUC for those, so it'd be like mileage based.
And there is something in registration, right?
That's what the road usage charge is.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because gas tax is regressive, like the better fuel economy gets, then the less we're gonna get, but it doesn't mean that the car isn't doing the same number of miles on the road. Versus a road usage charge is literally mileage based, and then it's just the car that you have or like gross weight of the vehicle you have. And it will change for sure for the state. And I worked 5 years at Wasatch Front Regional Council doing regional transportation planning and funding with like UDOT, UTA, and 5 counties. So we talked a lot about that because gas tax pays. That's how we build Washington Boulevard expansion, right? I mean, it's major roadway projects. It's kind of interesting.
Okay, bear with me for a minute.
But if you have a comment, feel free, and or we can talk
Have
about
another
it.
cookie. I'll have a cookie when you say
Please do.
it.
So if last year you budgeted $500,000 for snow removal, but they ended up spending $1 million for snow removal, where does that extra $500,000 come from?
So this is what we call a restricted fund. So the Class C roads fund money can only be spent on road projects, maintenance, those things. So if the whole fund is not expensed, it actually has to go, it's part of the fund balances. It's not part of the general fund, it's actually its own separate account, if you will. And so we manage that in anticipation of not overextending. So like this year, we do have $450,000 budgeted in there for road maintenance. But that's going to be like after we know what's going to happen in the snow year. They're going to go out to bid for next spring to do more road
So you
maintenance.
have a balance.
So there is a balance that can only be spent on.
And so if snowplow uses all of that balance, then the rest of the road work is not done this year.
And then if
Okay,
there is a
gotcha.
shortfall, then yes, it does fall to general fund. general fund
But
dollars.
the council could say, you know what, there's so many potholes, we're gonna take some money from the general fund and fix some roads,
Yes, they
right?
can, yeah, absolutely.
So they can take from the
It's-
general fund.
Right, it can't be overlaid.
Yeah, you just can't use the road money for something else.
So the general
I'm
fund
just
is kind of,
assuming that
Like
Like
what?
cherry days.
Don't get me started.
You're trying to give her a hot dog.
So
That's why he
what-
sits right behind me during city council.
So that's what we
meetings, too.
they made
I'll be
a
listening,
comment
I
last night.
hear
you know,
the
with all the
sound in
potholes
my
and
ear. and-
We may not be
Poke,
able
poke.
to. drop them off.
I got it. No, thank you.
So,
so if I understand.
so then all the dollars, so all the dollars that are programmed to be spent this spring, if they're not spent, we will roll that into next year to try and fix most of the potholes, because, you know, we're still having weather early, and I think they just barely started making the asphalt.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
And,
just been warm enough.
yeah, and so, we'll roll those dollars over in an effort to try to. fix what happens. There's a lot out there, right?
So Jamie, if I'm understanding right, it sounds to me like the general fund is sort of a cushion. Kind of a rainy day fund that can be used if need be for things like this, where the snowball this year.
So, yeah, so
It can be
there's,
used for those purposes.
yes, so there's,
flexible.
How do you know how much to keep in the general fund?
So we actually are by law, we actually can have no less than 5%, and it's 5% of projected revenues or revenues in the current period. We have no less than 5% and no more than 35%. It used to be 25%, but 2 years ago they raised it to 35%. And so right now we're sitting at about 2.1 million, which is about 21% of the current budget.
So the budget goes up. Okay.
So, right, so next year it'll be 24% is what the projection is.
What happens if you use all of that, like between the flooding and the snow plowing and there's no more left in the general fund?
So,
Is then all capital projects are just stopped
Yeah, you
until the next year when the taxes and stuff come in again?
interfund loan, that way also, you know, FEMA dollars are available. And, if we do go into deficit, I mean, that's, we have to get the money somehow, right?
Yeah, you just
Whether that's
you delay your
5%.
projects. That's what that's what cities will do, and they'll just push those major $1 million road rebuilds or other infrastructure projects off a year or two, but then they get incrementally more expensive. It's cheaper to maintain good roads than it is to rebuild failed roads. So there's this curve of
And that was the
asphalt
mayor's
maintenance,
concern last
yeah.
night about talking about the infrastructure before
right.
the building. Okay.
And that I think kind of comes back to, and you can tell me if I'm over speaking or whatever, Jimmy,
No,
but
no,
to Councilmember Ekstrom's concerns too of how much we're relying on sales tax revenues, because those are so fluid and change. And we were fortunate that the state changed online sales to getting some point of sale purchase at the time that they did, because that kept a lot of cities floating during COVID when that went away. But I mean, we're just as like a planning profession, we're wondering what to do with all this over allocated strip commercial that we have zoned that no one's coming for. You know, we're not getting buildings coming up out of the ground. So what does that look like? And it's going to be a different landscape in the future if online sales continues to do what it does, and hopefully that still floats us. But it's
But like you said, there's a three-legged stool that you
Yeah.
don't want. Riverdale stool where it's just one.
yeah, so your sales tax, property tax, and franchise tax, your fees on water, sewer, garbage. And you want those to be as balanced as possible and not super heavy on one. And I'd say, North Ogden, we're probably under retail for the size of the community that we expect to be in the future. But with the reality of retail landscape, we might be just right sized. Like we may be able to just fill up our limited retail space that we have at 40,000 people and keep it active and not have the 5 Points of the world or like 12th Street and Harrison, 12th Street and Wall that had big box centers that have, failed, and then you wait for something else to come and regenerate in them.
Like Ocean Mark.
Yeah, so Ocean Mark coming in, that was really fortunate for them to
Yeah.
be able to pick up, but to lose that Fred Meyer that was there,
Yeah.
you know, who would have thought Fred Meyer would go away where it was? I mean, that was a huge powerhouse. Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting, but it's something to watch really heavily, and your property tax revenues looking at what I would call like a legacy building. So Cannery is a legacy building. It's been dozens of uses over 100 years versus building I'll just pick on any one of them, building a Burger King. Like, it's really hard to reuse a Burger King unless it turns into like a Rancheritos,
Yeah.
you know?
Just say Betos.
Yeah.
And so,
That's what he said.
so thinking about, from like a zoning standpoint, looking at more of a form-based code, you build the city that you want to build as far as the buildings and the look and everything, but it's not specific to what use is sitting in that box, is more towards where people are going. And then you can have a lot of changeover, and you're relying on property tax collection at that point. That it's a much more static fixed number that we can rely on, even though it doesn't have the same like initial punch that getting a new 20,000 square foot retail center does for the first 10 years of sales tax collection. You just can't rely on them forever.
Thanks.
Some cool stuff. So what do we do?
Let's move to public services inspections. We just travel and training there, 2,500. That was part of the engineer travel and training, and then again the motor pool reduction. For the events for our admin, just do that. We moved the telephone and utilities into the government buildings department. That was the change for that one. Page 8 for the parks. They had, do you remember the sprinkler system that they talked about? They had a software so that they can manage it. Yeah, remotely. They had that under subscriptions and memberships, and I did move that to computer services just to kind of help out the finance department. So that was an in and out, and then again that motor pool lease reduction. In recreation, so this was a correction. I'm not sure why uniforms used to be a 410 account instead of 140, but we moved it to 140 to stay uniform with the rest of the. It's more of an accounting thing, accounts payable, so we're not confused on what accounts to use. And then we did use the summer count or increase the summer counts back to that 600. I think we originally took it out thinking they weren't going to do it, and they decided they were. The utility funds are basically going to be the same story. You go to page 23 for the water fund.
No, I was on page 8.
Yeah.
We're skipping all.
We'll skip that.
Well, this is all I'll have to read because the rest of it is impact fees, stuff that we haven't even talked about.
So,
So
sorry.
page 23.
Okay.
And the water fund, again, the changes we added, or sorry, it was just that reallocation of employees, dropped the motor pool lease. We did drop some meter change out costs there, just kind of based on what's happening this year and the need to do more meter change out. And that's really it.
Isn't that what you said is gonna get really huge pretty soon?
Quadrupling the water.
Yeah, so that one's going to be a different discussion. That's based on like future project needs and those kinds of things. The yellow sheets just really provide the operating costs. More to come. On page 25, I don't have anything new. It's the same thing. Motor pool lease was reduced, and then we the sewer line maintenance. That contract is for 50,000. So we just reduced that 4,000. For stormwater on page 27, again, it's those 3 or 4, I should say. Reallocation of benefits, the motor police drop. We did drop the fuel for the stormwater because it's coming in slightly under as well. And then preventing maintenance, we did reduce that. And then same thing for solid waste.
How much does a garbage can cost? Somebody said it like
160.
160,
Just a can.
Just the can.
Back over, at break it or get stolen, who has to pay for it?
Say that again.
If my garbage can has to be replaced, who pays for it? You say.
You do.
What if the garbage jack breaks?
Brian will come out and try to fix it, depending on. And then.
My blue one obviously has been squished way too hard. It's split.
So does mine.
I'm just waiting. I'm like, it's working. I'm not gonna worry about it.
So Brian will come out and fix it, you know, the wheels and the handlebar and what he can do, and then. Oh, yeah, okay, and then if not, then we do back charge the.
I have a first gen black garbage can. Like circa 1993.
I mean, mine's 25 years old too. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's really all I have as far as the changes. I guess in the motor pool fund, it's that same story.
Correct me if I'm wrong, these are general things.
Yes, so these were just the changes. The departments were
Does anybody have any questions? Julie?
We were just talking about. How much more time do we have? Hour and a half?
Don't say
We can
too
stay
long.
for another hour before Scott.
Before we run out of time.
Yeah.
Unless
So
I don't want it.
next on the agenda, I don't know if anyone here,
Oh, we should have asked him about this.
so Scott, did anyone, I guess probably not, about the process we're going to use to convey our ideas to the council?
We spoke briefly about what might happen under a future truth and taxation like we had last year. I had some suggestions, but we talked about in staff meeting, and there have been no decisions that I've heard or that have been made.
Okay.
I thought we were just doing that at a city council.
No, but I know that they want everything, Phil has said on more than several occasions that Randy Wynn is the liaison. It should go through Randy. But we haven't specific, huh?
Go ahead.
Yeah, but he's never said officially that Randy is who we submit all our ideas to and Randy presents them. I'm just wondering so that we know what the process is, or how do we convey our list, our ideas to the council, and I guess that's just going to be on hold
Well, let's,
for now.
We can make our list.
Yeah,
We just
that's
don't
what,
have
that's,
to-
well, and that's next, that was next on the list, was to start.
please
Yeah.
finish your sentence.
No, I'm good, yeah.
Okay, so I suggest that for today, we give this question specifically to Randy. Okay, Randy, you need to answer this question since you are our liaison. You tell us what the process is. Randy. Please. For
John's
school.
here, maybe he knows.
What?
Yes.
Just in
The whole
time.
time, right?
Want me to sit down over here?
Did you see everybody brighten up when you walked in?
Here's your cookie pie.
We'll bribe you.
Let's see.
So-
Yeah.
Dang.
On our agenda, number 4 was explanation on the process of submitting, presenting cost-saving ideas to city council. So we know Phil has said several times, Randy Wynn is the liaison, everything runs through. So when we have our list, who is gonna talk to the council? I mean, are we gonna meet with them? Are we gonna give it to Randy and he does it? Are we gonna type up a list and what is the process?
So a formal presentation would be the best. And however the group wants to do it.
So it's gonna be our decision.
So so Randy's part of that decision making,
Right.
but in theory, it should be the group votes on this is how we want to present. And I think you could even say, these are the presenters we want.
Okay,
So-
and one of our options could be, we get on the agenda for a city council meeting and we come and item by item, present our ideas to the council.
Yep.
Okay,
The only thing I will say is with the council, they typically they've been starting to kind of give people recommended limits. So I would
Yeah.
shoot for around 20 minutes-ish.
Total for all the ideas?
Well, so I think it'd be good to say,
Punchy.
well, so it needs, not knowing what the ideas are, like, that's our
Yeah.
usual
Right
goal.
here.
Well, that's the usual goal that we give folks is about a 20-minute presentation.
unless you've got a
Except-
captivating video that everyone's falling asleep on, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
that was
and that's the
long.
reason why, is that we try and tell
After that,
people,
they
shoot,
said-
for this and where it's budget, I'm confident that if you said, hey, we really need 30 or 35 minutes, that they would say, okay.
We'll still try to be.
Yeah, and we don't have 5,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so good,
I've
that's,
got 2 pages. single.
I've got 3,000. No, I'm in a similar vein of thought. I go, well, I don't know, at least I'll start by at least type up what
Yeah.
I'm thinking, and
So-
then we can figure out how to present it, you know.
well, before we make our list, since us 5 are the ones that are here basically every week, can we decide how we want our presentation done? Do
We
we
said
want
Randy
it?
has to be involved.
Oh.
But Randy can just agree. to
Yeah,
what
we can tell
decide.
Randy this is,
I wouldn't worry about Randy. The one. But no, I think the bottom line is that we're representing. He can say whatever he wants, but these are kind of what we were talking about. This is our stuff. And it's not so much Randy's opinion, it's our opinion. So,
And I can hardly imagine
Yeah.
Randy saying, no, I don't like that form.
Yeah.
no, but to me, it's more of a, he's the liaison and I can go through him. So
Honestly, my concern is a little more Phil, because he has made it very clear that any communication is supposed to go through
Oh,
Randy.
and it will.
Well, so
I don't
when
necessarily
it's the
agree
formal
with that.
presentation to the council, though, I think you're safe it would be good to at least have Randy be part of the conversation, even if he's not the one who speaks the whole time.
Mhm.
But probably what I would avoid is saying, okay, we're gonna have Brenda give something and then Chris give something. Like, I think it would be good to say, here, we're gonna have 2 people present.
Which
So-and-so will
I
talk
think
about
should be
this
our
group,
chair.
so-and-so will talk about this group. And that might be Randy saying, okay, that's how we're gonna proceed, so the council could. And maybe you all want to present, it ends up being so choppy that you'll start losing council.
Yeah,
And that's the other reason for not going for an hour is that
yeah.
but if you need an hour and you got your presentation done the right way, you'll keep them engaged, but you have to keep them engaged because you don't want them to
Right.
tune off. Not that they're not engaged, but you know what I mean?
They're people.
Yeah, I've sat
They're
through
human
some
beings.
meetings.
Yeah, we've all been in meetings.
Yes. So does everyone agree that we want to make a formal presentation during a city council meeting? Is that, yes,
1,000%.
That
Yeah.
sounds
Does
We've done a
anyone-
crap ton of work.
yeah. So throw out your ideas on who should do the presentation.
You guys are the chair people. I think you should, 2 of you should do the presentation.
Does anyone have a different idea?
I don't mind putting it together, to be honest.
Oh, I think all of us should be.
Right,
Well, no,
all
I
of
just
us
meant the PowerPoint king, I don't know about you, but.
You speak PowerPoint, right?
You're smiling.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
I know people that are PowerPoint ninjas, though. I'm not one of them.
But you speak PowerPoint pretty well. Okay, so we'll funnel the ideas, assuming Randy agrees.
And-
Funnel ideas to you and you. put
And
it all
making
together,
things
make it look
succinct
nice.
because you don't slide. You don't make a word chart that people are like, ugh. You talk to the slide. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've learned through decades of literally briefing general and stuff like that. So let's talk about losing interest fast. Because he reads the slide, you brief, and all of a sudden goes next. And you're like, oh, all right, next slide, you know.
They only let you have maybe 10 slides at the max.
Anyway.
Okay, but we're not gonna just have PowerPoint slides where whoever presents is just gonna read what's on the slide, are we?
To make
Is
things
that fair?
succinct, I think that's the only way you can do it.
Okay.
If
I think
there's-
That's boring, but that's,
Well, what
If that's the
else
right
would you
way.
like to do?
I don't know, pictures, cartoons.
No, seriously, and that's good. I mean, honestly.
No, I just think that those are, it bothers me
Well,
to have you read something
There's
that I
two-
can read.
well, yeah, but usually the reading is they're just bullets, quick bullets, and you expand on each one.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
that, yeah, that's
Okay.
the best presentations to council is when there's a bullet point that's like
Yeah.
police. And
Yeah.
then someone says,
not the
and
whole
here's what we're
thing.
talking about. And you might have summary like, here's police, $10,000. And then you say, and here's how we're gonna make the 10,000. But then it forces them to engage back with you at the podium.
I could live with that. I just don't like them when it's word for word and why am I listening to somebody talking
Yeah.
when I.
Presenting is sort of my art.
The pictures are good too. My dad's a fantastic presenter and his PowerPoints always have pictures that he uses to tell the story.
Maybe we could have.
It
music.
sounds
No.
university
Oh,
teacher,
you gotta
he
be
doesn't
animated
say
picture.
anything.
Okay, so
You want to talk structure? Is that what you're gonna say? So,
next we have our list. What are all those ideas we have?
well, I think you should talk structure first, meaning, you know, do we want to go through just a quick, the first one saying, holy cow, this is really complicated, you know, type of slide. And here's the bullet points that at least I was instructed to write a couple of things, you know. Important things, you know, as from our point of view, you know, learning all this stuff quickly in the past 2 months. She's got years, and Wells has got years. We've got, what, a couple months? You know, property taxes go to public safety, equal police, you know, I mean, something like that, because general people, they don't know that. You know, they always say, oh, why won't they fill my pothole? Where's my property taxes going? You know, go ahead.
General people are not gonna watch this. It's gonna be city council.
People who
Yeah,
already know.
I
what
think
they-
we're
No,
just
so just
talking
do
to
that.
the
Okay.
council.
Just directing it to the city council.
Yeah,
Very
that's-
poignant.
I mean,
as
if
to
they
this,
care, they've
this, and that.
watched this.
That's true.
Yeah.
So just picking off, what can we reduce? What is our what's our suggestions for the future? Is that what you're
Yeah,
thinking?
what's
Or
our-
this,
what's our recommendation?
because I think it should be current budget and other things like out years. I know the mayor was talking about
Yeah, 5 years.
the future type of thing. And
Yeah.
that's, to be honest, I don't know how much we can do this budget year, but projecting or at least managing expectations, to be honest, I think is the hardest.
But I think that needs, current year, I think needs
Is the
to be
focus.
first,
Correct.
because that was our whole purpose.
Yep.
So, okay.
Or we can at least say, what did we do? You know, I guess maybe that would be the first chart. We went through each detail. I don't know. I guess it's up to you guys. But
Yeah.
To me, the summary thing, quickly what we did. And then here's the results. I don't know,
That sounds good, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
something like that.
Yep.
Okay. But so is there suggestions already of say, what we want to do? I know there's reductions, but I know there's increase.
Well, I think that's where we are. Let's throw
Yeah.
them all out and
Recommendations. It doesn't have to be increased, you know, it can be whatever. It doesn't have to be, these are our recommended, you know, reductions. They just have to be our recommendations, period. Change it,
I would say-
reduce it, increase it, move it, whatever. the
but
recommend-
maybe also put them in order. These are our recommendations for reducing. These are our other recommendations that we would like to see.
Even though they may increase.
Yeah.
Some kind of improvement.
Not,
So it's either that way or it's by
department, so if we got
department, yeah.
that.
Because does it matter? I sort of think maybe it does, like we have police and there's like four bullets under police that
I think that's good.
Well, I'm almost to the thinking it should be by impact. In other words, these recommendations are ranked by their impact, dollar amount, either up or down. Because if you spend, yeah, because if you spend too much time talking about something that's gonna save them $15, then
Yeah.
you just, it's a don't care. It's like, doesn't even meet the threshold of making a difference.
Yeah.
Since I went to the trouble of compiling my thoughts so far, understanding, we all understand it's not perfect. They're not all winners. It's kind of a brainstorming exercise, really. Let me just read maybe 3 or 4 very short paragraphs of what I would suggest. Okay. Just a few of my ideas. Number 1. Do not replace the faded military honor banners on the light poles on Washington Boulevard unless they are 100% privately funded. If privately funded, state that fact on the banners. 2, these are as they came, not necessarily in order of impact. But number 2, regarding the North Ogden Connection magazine, go to quarterly instead of monthly. Time the quarterly issues to correspond with cherry days and year-end holidays. Conduct a poll or a vote to find out how many people really read it and value it. Use the magazine itself to conduct that poll.
To add to that is that because some magazines flip between paper and electronic. That's a thought.
This one you can do both. In fact, that's the only
Oh,
way
there
I've
is?
been able to read it for several months is online.
Electronically? Good heavens, where am I? I don't know.
You just go to North Ogden Connections and it's online.
Okay, then why do we even mail it? Anyway, moving on.
Didn't know that. I'll give you credit for that idea.
Oh,
Okay, number 3 suggestion. Related, for things that need more urgent monthly communication, use the utility bill. Which I think we used to do.
Yes. But there's
some
a whole reason behind why all that changed.
Okay. Let me just make sure.
Okay.
Sure that's that way. For those who do electronic payments and don't get a paper bill, use email, texts, or similar channel of electronic communication, which is tending a little bit toward what you said. And then the 4th one, which I mentioned, have we had an energy evaluation done by Rocky Mountain Power or Dominion Energy? If so, have we implemented the recommendations? So those are just some things that I would suggest and consider, throw darts at it, massage them and just trying to start somewhere.
so I thought people paid for the banners. The city pays for the banners?
We get donations for them.
I don't.
We do get donations for the banners.
But that doesn't pay fully, does it? Or does it?
I believe it does.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if
For
it,
the ones that are up, they've all been fully donated,
Okay.
but not the ones that say like
Not
my
the white
local.
ones. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's only the military banners that are paid for by the
They're getting
families.
kind of faded more, so we're gonna.
Yeah, what we do is when we take one down, we'll let the family know and say, hey, it's
So
time to
they're-
be replaced. Are you
so
interested?
They're all privately funded.
Yeah, there was some seed money at the front, but I'm pretty sure all the ones there are now private only.
Anyway, I just thought I'd throw those ideas out, and I've got 2 pages, but I don't want to bore you to death.
That is our meeting from, I think, from this point on.
Unless you want to break and have somebody else.
If somebody else brought ideas, I don't want to hog the whole show, but I try to be prepared.
I got one, but it's not. I mean, just by gone to all the meetings so far, they've always said that can't enforce that. Citizens usually have to call it in, and so
For
it's
code enforcement.
snitching is really what is what,
It's called responsive code enforcement.
That's a little more.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
but, you know, I mean, even the chief has stated that, you know, the code enforcement officers will drive past 17 violations to go to 1. That is more, I don't say important, but, you know, racks and stacks. And so I guess, you know, in my mind, you know, we have all these ordinances that aren't enforced. I mean, the gentleman last time was talking about how dog off the leash thing, and that's like very well put. You know, I mean, it's, if you have something on the books and don't enforce it, then why do you have it on the books? I mean, that was one of the things, I think, same thing with the planning commission, they're talking about, you know, yards should be installed by a certain period of time. Does anybody enforce that? You know, I never heard anything. You know, it took me a little bit to get my backyard done.
They just reinstated that. That
Right,
was
but no,
not-
this is 5 years ago.
Okay.
But, so, you know, in my view, if they're lacking, and I think, was it 2 or 2.5 FTEs for 2 for code enforcement / animal control / evidence.
Mhm.
So to me, that seems woefully under, you know, and I don't know if adding something to that adds another car, adds another blah, 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 blah. So each person is 150,000, or if it's, you know, something less than that. But to me, you know, I grew up back east, and, you know, snitches get stitches. So I mean, I just, one of those things, I
What?
just,
What'd you say?
snitches get stitches. You ever heard of that?
If you
Meaning
rat on
that if
someone,
you
you
rat
get
on
your butt
somebody,
kicked.
you're getting something back later.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't like doing it just for that fact, and the fact that once you call a neighbor on a neighbor, especially if you're next door neighbor, people start pointing at you. Oh, he's the one that told me to stop throwing snow in the street, you know. So, you know, it's not, it shouldn't be, to me, it should be responsibility of the civilian citizen to snitch somebody else out. It should be, you know, the law enforcement individual that is tasked with finding that stuff, yelling at somebody. Anyway,
So Chris.
so long story short, was
How
that,
does that relate to cost saving?
it's not cost saving,
It's cost
it's
saving.
adding an
Yeah.
improvement to the overall city that,
Yeah.
Such
he wants
that-
to add,
you know,
It
because
might
the
be
city is a
increasing
service,
cost.
is definitely increasing costs by 300 grand, I would think, if not more to add to.
So what's your recommendation?
Unless there's revenue from
recommendation
tickets.
to change that?
Double it, say again, and,
No,
but
you
if
just
you
answered it.
double that and increase some of the fees that you're collecting, it's not gonna offset it, I understand that, but it's gonna at least make it a city where, you know, things are enforced, not Warville enforced, but, you know, something like that, but
I'm getting kind of an uncomfortable feeling. Thinking that we're gonna have more policemen around checking to make sure my lawn's the right height.
if they drive past 17 violations to get to 1 height on, you know, there's one house that doesn't do anything with their yard for 5 years that I've been around that neighborhood. Has anything been done about it? No, you know.
Well, I
They
think
almost
it's back-
burned the house down.
It's back to your point. If you're not gonna enforce it, why is it on the code?
Yeah.
Well, I'd
So-
like to suggest an answer.
But I would say remove it from the code. That would be my response.
but then how many other people will then stop doing?
Anyways, that's just,
Because some
that's
people
my
are
thought. I
doing it
haven't
because it's
coalesced.
the law.
Don't think the average person knows the code.
100%. And it,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Nobody should know.
But even after the code enforcement stopped the dude and said, hey, you're not supposed to be throwing stuff in the snow because it's a mis.
Well, that's just common
The dog-
sense. You don't do it, but
But the next 2 days later, she was doing it again, and I'm just like, you know, so some people just don't learn. So I'm
And
like,
he
I
said
call
that-
again and say, hey, this dude's doing it again. What are
Did
they
he
gonna
say, did he say he called 911, the police came and the policeman did nothing about it? Didn't take names?
Oh, that the dude? Yeah.
Yeah, the dog got it last night.
Yeah.
The policeman. didn't
Well,
do
and that's fine. That's the way the chief wants to do it. But the thing is that, you know, there should be a way that, anyway. I won't go too far, but
Can I make a suggestion? I think these ideas that we have that we want to submit, I think if the whole committee agrees on that idea, then it should be something that is submitted
yes.
as a committee. If we have something that maybe I feel is important, but nobody else does, then during public comments, I will make my own comments. Does that make sense?
100%, yeah, everybody should be on board with what we present, yeah. Whatever the word.
So you come to the meeting, say something.
I already kind of have, but yeah, it's one of those things. that-
Sometimes you have to say it several times.
I know, but I don't mind. But I think the thing so that we brief to the council should be the fact that, hey, we've looked at everything. And, there's a lot of little things that we could pick at, and, here's a list of things that, we want to look at or at least talk about. But here's some other things that you want to, think about for the future. And, I know there's a 5-year plan and yada, but anyway.
I think besides the PowerPoint, we need to have the agenda packet. We need to have printed paperwork on the agenda packet that the council members can look at. That is also on the webpage that if anybody's interested, they can look at.
Like
Beyond just this.
More details than just the PowerPoint.
Kind of like the newspaper, too. You've got the headlines, the first paragraph, and then you got the rest of the story.
Well,
If you want to read it.
if you go to the meeting agenda, there is an agenda packet also. That will have, I think.
Supporting
we need to be
data,
Part of that.
basically.
We need to have it handwritten down for the council to have. I mean, if we're gonna be serious about it, let's do it all the way. If we're just saying, oh, you can cut this and walk away, then I think we're wasting our time. Sorry.
No.
May I say something?
I'm done.
And please feel free to push back if you disagree, but I recall that our chart, our purpose for this is to find cost-saving ideas to suggest to the city council for them to consider and act on as they feel is correct. Even though, with all due respect, there may be things that could be improvements in the city. Our chart is cost reductions.
No, I don't think it was. It was reviewing the budget to see what we could do to recommend things. I do not believe it was reduction from what I remember. Was it
Actually,
reduction?
it was, if you go back to the
original
truth in
original?
Taxation, yeah.
Okay.
The truth in taxation, and the reason this committee was started was because people wanted taxes cut.
Okay.
Or we're upset that their taxes were being raised.
Right.
Two sides of the same coin.
And did you
Yeah.
listen to Councilwoman Ekstrom last night? She thinks property taxes should be raised every year from now on.
So that we can get to the public.
So.
So do we
We're
want
here
to,
to suggest cost reduction ideas.
so hang on before you start with that. Can we agree we'll do cost reduction ideas and then other recommendations? How are you with that?
My vote would be no. With all due respect, because the other ideas are fully welcome. We have 5 minutes each that we can speak our minds or email the city council. But that wasn't our purpose for this group. Our purpose was cost reduction.
Okay, and does anyone else want to share? I mean, I want everyone to have their voice heard. So what is everybody feeling about what our presentation is?
My feeling, I don't agree that it's just cost saving.
Okay.
It makes no point, makes no sense to go through something and say, everything's good, but I have to come up with something that says it costs it. There's little things over, $15 here and there, or maybe a couple grand.
Well, I think
But
we
when your
should have
major
a-
thing is $40,000,
Yeah.
oh no, it's more, it's 90 from year to year that you have no control over.
Right.
So, to pick off $2,000 for something that degrades someone's morale, no, I don't agree to that. So, I mean, to me, you either say, yes, there's a significant portion that we can reduce. If we come to the council and say we can reduce $2,000, they're gonna go, what? I don't think that's what the mayor or any of the council people are looking for. They're looking for something that's coalescing, hey, we're gonna save 50 to 100 grand on this, we're gonna do another 25 over here. If you add up 25 things and that makes the thousand each, maybe, but do we have 25 things on any of this that come up to
He has
25?
2 pages.
Okay, I understand, but I mean, I guess it all adds up, I agree, but
But do we wanna bottom, like no less than whatever, because I don't want to see, if we do this, 3 times a year instead of every month, we'll save $480. To me, that's 480. We need a minimum.
But, oh gosh, I really
Go
feel
ahead.
like I need to be quiet.
no, don't, that's the whole point.
No one's gonna get.
She's not gonna stay quiet, so you can't stay
Hell
quiet.
no, sorry.
I think
Please,
we,
Brenda.
my opinion, okay, and I will go with what anybody agrees with. This is a committee. I think if we are going to submit something as a committee, every one of us has to agree on it.
Yep.
If every one of us doesn't agree on it, that doesn't make the list for the city council. And I think, in my head, the easiest way is we go through everybody's complaints or everybody's suggestions, and we talk about this one, and if we say, okay, that's great, we all agree, then it hits the list. If we say, no, I don't agree with that, that's off the list.
Yep.
That's, to me, the easiest way to go.
And the members of the group can, that if there's something that isn't included in the list, still feel like you can email it to the council,
Yes.
just not as the
Public
committee.
meetings,
Yeah,
but it's
so,
not as committee-supported recommendation.
yeah, so,
That's my opinion.
so, because the council is not gonna reject ideas, well, or, not reject, accept, you're seeing ideas. But if that's the approach you're gonna do, if you're not gonna do everything, make sure that everyone knows there's still an avenue for the other items.
Okay. So do we,
He's got a list. Let's go down his
Yeah.
list and see if we all agree or disagree. Or do we want to wait until Ben is here or until Randy's here?
I hate to run in and leave, but I've gotta go train the kids at the pool, so I'm gonna sneak off
are
again.
you a lifeguard trainer or what are you?
The legal policies for the city.
Oh, that
So-
attorney's.
Other duties as assigned.
The other duties is assigned. So anyway,
Okay.
sorry to run.
Take a.
No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just trying
One,
to get
two,
rid of
whatever.
my leg. I can stand right here and.
Oh, thank you.
Do you want to?
No, just one.
Okay, is everybody okay with, we'll go through everyone's list and does anyone want to make a master list? Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, leave the secretary.
I will
don't
take it as
have the
well.
disposition.
I was just wondering if there was gonna be any item where we're gonna get 100%.
I think
A lot
so.
of courage
I
in
think-
it. There may be some.
I do think there will be. Okay, Doug,
Until we try.
you're up. Number 1.
Okay. Before I say this,
Uh-huh.
I don't remember who made the point, you or you, but there may be some items where we have like a 3-2 vote or a 4-1 vote or something. And I think we should allow the possibility of some discussion.
Yep.
There may be things that I haven't considered that you might know and might persuade me, yeah, you know what, you're really right, I agree with you now. But let's not just say, yeah, you're.
Yes or no, I got
Okay,
you.
all right, thank you.
Your meeting starts at 6, right?
Yeah, so we have 45 minutes.
I will try to not talk too much. I will just read this. In fact,
Okay.
I'll tell you folks, I thought about emailing this out, but I know how emails can be forwarded and misunderstood. I just said, no.
Yeah.
Bring it, we'll talk about it. That's why I'm doing this. Thank you. Okay, cost saving ideas and related observations and questions. First paragraph is just a general philosophy. Seek to eliminate waste and avoid extravagance. Cultivate an attitude of use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without, which is a slogan from World War II. Now, I realize that we are not in such dire straits as the country was in at that time, but we should still encourage and practice frugality. At the same time, we should beware of false economy, where a well-intentioned but misguided decision might end up costing more in the long run. That's just to me some common sense. Some attitude. Bottom
But
line.
that's your personal, we're just making a list right now.
Bottom line, eliminate waste, be frugal, and be wise. Now, on with the list.
Okay.
I agree with trying to have community events like Cherry Days largely done by volunteers, not paid employees and contractors. I understand that's not a specific recommendation, but there's some for reducing expenses by having people do things that aren't getting paid for them.
Okay, but we still want police presence at those places. That's, you're not saying don't have cops there.
I said nothing about.
Okay, well, no, you just
Yeah, but
saying
that's the problem.
that city funded.
Cherry Days has to have police.
Oh, but I'm thinking of like hiring an official circus to bring in all their stuff and we pay them thousands of dollars to put on pony rides and a dunk tank and,
Gotcha.
and all these things that you pay for.
Yeah, but
that
they're,
people-
right, but
that people-
they're gonna tramp down the park. And the Parks and Rec people are gonna have to clean up after it, so there's probably gonna be some costs to paid employees.
Right, right. Notice I put the word largely.
Yeah.
Get volunteers wherever you can.
So, and I think what the council's response is gonna be is like specifically what? You know, like, yes, Cherry Days is one thing. What's another thing? And then do you, and I'm not throwing darts at you. I'm saying, good idea. What are some examples? Because I think that's what they're gonna, I think they're gonna say, you know, we're happy to look at whatever you want us to look at. So you're gonna have to tell them specifically.
Something specific,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, may as well hear it from me than hear it from them. So you have a chance
I
to.
appreciate that. I
Okay.
do. Okay, next. I agree with stopping the flower baskets along Washington Boulevard, eliminating that unnecessary expense. If we have not already, this is a specific. If we have not already done so, we should sell the watering truck and eliminate the money allocated for fertilizer and surfactant.
I'm good with doing half of the flower baskets because I think we have too many. See, and here's where a matter of opinion
Thought
comes
they
in.
had axed that.
Yeah, I thought they already did.
Yeah, the flowers are gone.
For this year.
Mhm.
For this year. But I
But they-
didn't understand that to be a permanent thing.
Okay.
I thought it was a change.
I thought it was just for this year. So if it is a permanent thing, that's fine. Part of my problem with that, which makes no sense whatsoever, is Mayor Taylor spent twice the money on those poles so that the flower baskets could hang from them and the signs. I mean, it's kind of like the pond. We've already spent half the money, so we got to finish it, right? So how do we
Yeah.
debate that?
But that would be a finish the pond and it's finished. The hangers on those will be there year after year after year. So it'll be flowers this year, flowers next year, flowers the next year, flowers.
The ongoing
Yeah.
expense. that-
And I mean, truth and taxation, more than a few people said, how much are we spending on those dang flowers? Yeah, they did say, so I mean, it's, they let it be known, that wasn't worth,
I was
There-
in the meeting when they
Yeah.
said it was all gonna be done by volunteer. And that volunteer, the city pays $25,000 a year
the volunteer to
to
take.
water the flowers,
Goes around with that robotic truck
the truck, yeah.
and the truck costs.
I'm just saying
So-
devil's advocate. I don't
Yeah.
feel like that.
So maybe do we want to get some answers on where is the truck? Can it be sold? Is the
Is it a one-year
doing away
stop
with
or
the
is it-
flowers only a 1-year thing to shut the citizens up? Or was that a new going
Yeah, that
forward?
would be probably good to know.
So does someone, do you want to get Randy to get us an answer to that since it's your?
Let's make please make a note of that.
Okay, that'll be something to start with.
So it wasn't in the 2023 budget and it's not in the 24 budget.
So we know it's at least for the.
Okay, so it,
There was also other opportunity to hang, I don't know what kind of fake flowers they were.
Oh, but I remember, sorry.
There was an opportunity for that as well. So
I heard
we are
that.
not putting fake flowers, please.
Okay. Okay,
I
All right.
I will get in my truck at night and I will sneak around and snatch all that nasty crap down. We are not,
Kind of getting a feeling of the
Do you know, careful,
you're no better than the work.
Is that
careful, you're on,
Oh
Jamie,
my
is that a lease
God.
vehicle, that truck, that water?
No,
Scott has to turn that machine off now.
recording.
Feel funny.
you can edit that part out.
The truck was purchased, but it was our motor pool department that put all that together. They made the arm, they put all of that together. They built it.
Okay, so there's more homework to be done. On
I
that
think that's why it's
subject,
good to bring it up now.
thank you very much for listening to that suggestion. Next.
I'll tell you more about it.
Okay, I already mentioned about the military banners. Moving on, the next one. Street sweepers. Again, an idea.
What is the idea?
The idea is reduce street sweeper budget by asking all homeowners in residential areas to clean their half of the street in front of their own properties. Lots of us do it anyway as a matter of pride and principle. Continue city paid sweeping of all non-residential areas, in parentheses, businesses and residences on streets with 30+ miles per hour speed limits, close parentheses, where it would be impractical or dangerous to expect an individual to clean the street.
Do we have a way to quantify some of these, like the actual expected cost savings?
You could say half. Do you know what, how much the contract for the street sweeper contract was? So
Is
that would be 25.
it something that is required by the state?
Or stormwater.
Stormwater.
It
Yeah.
has to be, the streets have to be swept.
So you'd have to have an
Professional.
a code enforcement officer checking to see if they're actually.
There you go.
I wave that.
You didn't
No,
sweep the street.
I just remembered something that part of the reason the streets are swept is because it's a state
Yeah.
law.
Yeah.
Possibly involved.
So
So
I don't want
this
to
is-
speak out of.
This is a potentially involved thing, not just simply, well, people start sweeping around the street.
Yeah, well, see,
But it's
it's
an
another
idea.
question. It's another
Right.
Well,
question
and
to
that's the
ask.
thing, is that you can
It's
couch
state
it the way,
required.
you can save 25K if you sweep your own front of your thing. Because that's what you could say in front of others, is that if you don't,
Okay,
then we're gonna add 25K to your top taxes. But we have to add it back in the first.
I don't want to sweep my street. How are you gonna make me do it?
Code enforcement, anyways, sorry.
Well,
No,
yeah, that's true. I
but-
get that, but
No, the fact of the matter is, yeah, there's nobody forcing you to do it. So.
Well, you
I
don't
guess
own
my
the
question,
street
if
either.
it's a state law, somebody has to be forced to do it.
Right.
And so if we can't force the citizens, then we have to do it with, whatever they're called, shop price. So that's another question.
Okay,
Did you have an
But
answer, Scott?
But to me, that would be 25K. You could write that down. I mean,
25K?
that's, right? Because half of 50 is,
we're gonna estimate 25K savings if that were to become.
gotta start somewhere.
So we don't own our own street sweeper, we contract to have
We
somebody.
used to,
We do on one, but it's,
did. Close.
It's
but
about,
it's an old machine, and then it's actually cheaper for us to contract out both in salary and equipment.
So we're gonna sell the
So
old-
last year
sell the
we
old
did it. So no, because they need it for other, they need it
Short,
for other,
small
yeah, in a
jobs.
park or something, yeah.
We're not gonna sell that street sweeper.
Not that I know of. I don't know that there's.
Okay,
when you think of, maybe more tag for well practice.
okay. Shall we, a sub bullet, which but it's already been said, contract out the street sweeping service since it is needed only occasionally. Don't own our own street sweepers, but you just answered that question. With that idea. Okay, moving on. Next, regarding the sound and lights for the amphitheater, there are some options to consider. One, install lights only. Have users bring their own sound systems. Provide 110-volt power and no charge. Number 2 option, delay purchasing the systems, shifting expense to next year's budget. Amend this year's budget downward accordingly. Number 3, where was that one?
That's in the other. It's not
What's
the
in
main
capital
budget.
budget?
Capital, right?
Is that for 20?
So it's in 2023. We have a rent grant associated with that, but we're gonna ask for an extension on that. So it could roll into 2024.
But the money is there right now because it's in this year's budget.
That's the 295,000.
And there's a 50% rent grant. match.
Yeah.
So by putting it off a year, what is that going to say?
That's one option. Well, let's say spending the money now.
Well, but the problem is you got inflation and all those other things.
But the money is
Okay.
in this year's
Sure.
budget. I'm just curious.
In
I mean,
my-
I get
Yeah.
the bringing their own, but by not doing it this year and putting it off next year,
There's no savings.
So maybe that option is not an attractive option.
To me, it's reducing it out that never comes back, like the street sweeper thing, right? I mean,
To me, it's forcing the city to get $75,000 worth of donations, which they said they were gonna do.
but they've
Or
already.
not pay for it.
putting it back.
Mhm.
the amphitheater.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't keep her riled up with it, Doug.
Okay, so simply delaying the purchasing to me was an option. Be a good, bad, or indifferent. Moving on. All right, number 3 option, downsize or right size, that's an industry standard type term. Or right size both of them. Use the 80-20 rule. The city purchases only a small to moderate sound system, which would be approximately 200 to 500 watt output total. Adequate for most community functions. Would this be simple enough for the average citizen to set up and run? No. Just asking the question.
Didn't
Number
they
4.
say they'd already started that and had? Was paying. for
They've
it
done
already?
something because Sean
They
Casey
did it on
is,
the Symmetrics. but
yeah.
I thought.
Do you know,
the council
Scott?
had said something about they'd already started.
Do you know what's going on with the lights and sound system for, they're working something already.
Yeah, so there's money, I mean, there's money that the council has allocated towards it, and John's working through different. So we have a citizen who's offered his audiophile experience and expertise in creating the system, and so they're going back and forth and trying to just right size it for the events that we
Okay,
think
so
about.
I
But,
had heard they'd already started it, so
yeah,
they're
so
still in
The
the.
PO has not been cut.
No, and I think the other thing too is that what we've talked about as a city and looking at on events is how do we program that amphitheater? Because I think that the programming of it or the events that we expect to attract to it will drive the level of investment that we want to put into it in some ways. So there were some other cities that John was looking at reaching out to and seeing what their systems are, what they had. Because you can go full in like Sandy style or Layton's kind of somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Ogden, as far as we know, is completely stepped away from owning and maintaining their own system. It's like professionally managed at this point or managed by a third party that brings in people in their own equipment, but then that attracts a larger, I think a much larger clientele than we will ever expect to get at Barker Park Amphitheater.
Mhm.
So there's still stuff on there, but there's a general like budget amount that's been indicated.
Yeah, I just thought there was already a contract for the works.
Okay, so the number 3 option was, I'll just call it right size. Okay. Number 4 is kind of like the next half of number 3. Then when a big high profile, high dollar show wants to come in, have them provide their own supplemental sound system with their trained technicians to set it up and run it. Arrange with this could actually be a separate one anyway. Arrange with local sound, for example, Pole Sound, that's a company, to give a discount if we agree to steer all city business their way. Number 5, realize that the upfront cost is not all. Remember, whatever we install, we need to maintain. Winter can be hard on outdoor electronics. And who is going to set it up and run it properly so the components don't get damaged physically or electrically? Will it need to be a trained, paid employee? Or could it be a trained volunteer to further reduce city expenses? Number 6, for the sound system, am I losing anybody here? Nope. For the sound system, have an automatic 10 p.m. power cutoff, no bypass capability. That's not a cost savings idea. That's just a strong pet peeve of mine and other people's as well. So how to put it.
Those bills at 10 o'clock.
Okay. I already mentioned the magazine, and I liked your idea too, Chris, about electronic.
Yeah, ease them into it and then just make it all electronic. That's what they do, right?
Okay.
Less and less and less.
Utility bill thing. Okay, next, understand. This is more about the magazine. Understand the actual cost to the city and extra workload on those who are paid to author the articles. Compile it and submit it to the connectionpub.com company. Are they paid volunteers?
Now
The
I'm
people
lost.
submitting the,
That magazine has articles. They're written by somebody. Are those people paid? Are they
The
volunteers?
articles that are written in
Or
the
submitted.
magazine are done by North Ogden Connection staff. The only
Yeah.
article that
No, are those people paid to do that?
North Ogden Connection, that's not something that the city can control.
Yeah, and we also volunteer as departments, we volunteer articles as well.
Yeah,
So
nobody in the
I've
city-
but you
written-
don't get paid. You never get paid.
I mean, I'm a sunk cost. I get paid whether I'm sitting in this meeting or writing an article or doing building.
So
permits.
yourself.
But that money doesn't come from North Ogden
But
City.
it doesn't, we don't get anything extra. Like I could write all the land use articles I want for North Ogden Connection. I'm not getting a
Bonus.
bonus for doing it.
So are those articles, I think somebody said there are 8 pages that the city's entitled to and the rest is.
Yeah, so the mayor always has a mayor's message page. There's rotating information. Katie, our HR director, writes a bunch of them. There's like spotlight things. And so she probably does the most coordinating with it. And that's kind of a function of her HR and public relations stuff that she does for the city to include Facebook and other communication methods.
So if I'm hearing straight, the material that's submitted by city people that goes into the magazines is done by people who are paid. But there's not an incremental cost to it.
Yeah, you could eliminate the 8 pages and I don't think you'd see a cost savings. It would just be more of like the time would go somewhere else.
They'd have that 30
No,
minutes.
yeah,
so
we
we
would
could
have-
do
Yeah.
some other job.
So it adds to the workload,
Yeah.
if you will. Okay, so that's why I put in and extra workload on those who are paid to author the articles. And somebody compiles them and submits them to this, it's called connectionpub.com.
Yeah, that's Katie.
All right. The rest of that paragraph is find out the costs for printing and mailing and what parts of those costs are borne by the advertisements and how much the city.
Didn't we talk about that? We talked about that at the beginning of the meeting tonight.
Yeah, that was the questions, that was also the questions that we were left with was
We
how
don't
much
know.
does it cost to print?
Mm.
How much does it cost for postage? You know, and this just adds, is it getting money from advertising?
Keep in mind, I wrote this, I've been writing this for weeks. I actually finished it yesterday, but was before we had our discussion. That's a fairly involved discussion.
So-
Could be.
But is the 10 grand just mailing or is it the creation of the whole magazine? That was
So
my-
it's the
Cradle to
fees
grave.
paid to Connection Magazine, right, for them to create that. So we provide the content, we're allocating those pages. I'm not even sure if Katie gets to decide where it lands, other than the mayor's messaging or
So-
specific.
Here's, sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you for a second. Some of the 10 grand might not be just the mailing part of it. It might be the creation of it.
It's-
Electronic or not, it's still 10 grand.
It's the whole
Right.
thing for the magazine.
Right.
So there might be not a cost savings, even if you make it electronic, because they're still making it.
So my
Right.
question would be, what's the alternative? Because before we started with the Connection Magazine, we used to mail out a newsletter that the admin staff would create, and we would mail it out with the utility bill. So that would be my next question is, what's the alternative?
And at the time that they went from the city mailing it out to the magazine mailing it out, it was cheaper to do it with the magazine.
Yeah,
That's why it was switched over.
and to free up, that stuff.
So is there cost savings? I guess that's my question. I mean, because I liked where we were going, because that was easy 10 grand. But if it's not for the mailing and it's just literally to create the monthly thing, then we're kind of hosed. So I guess that would be the question.
Well, you know, Pleasant View stopped doing that. What are they
So
doing?
your question is,
The same.
so what is the 10 grand being spent on? Is that your question?
Well, yeah, my guess is that if it's spent on the creation of it, and maybe the mailing is this much of it, you know,
Yeah.
then the electronic part of it is gonna be, if you just make it electronic, you're not saving 10 grand, you maybe save this much.
Okay, so.
But
so
anyway,
this
it could be
a-
something. yes.
Yeah, it could be an entire discussion. That's why I put the first thing was understand the actual costs. Let's move on. Next idea is stop subsidizing chocolate. I heard that there was an agreement made when we started it about 10 years ago, and last year was supposed to be the last year of that agreement. Please confirm or clarify.
It was, but the city council had a special meeting, or it was on the agenda for the special meeting, and they gave more money this year, even though the discussion was they knew that it was supposed to be stopped, but they still gave money.
So
What
There-
much was that budget at?
It was 5,000.
Yeah, I think it was.
They started out at a certain amount, they lessened it, and then they said, last year, this will be our last year that we will it's supposed to be a program like Cherry is, that's supposed to cover itself, but it never did. They keep coming back every year for money, and they came back again this year, and the city council said, okay, we'll give you more money this year, even though last year they said they would not.
And I think, I agree with putting that to
I
the
think so.
council. And
Because they
because
said-
that's an ongoing, it may
Every
just be
year.
5,000 for the next budget. But it's just an ongoing 5,000 every year, and
And part of my problem is they say one thing, but they
Yeah.
don't follow through.
yeah. And I'm not going back to the office here.
Okay, next.
Mhm.
At city council meetings, stop printing copies of the agenda for public use.
I agree.
Either print one copy and tape it to the table or post it on a wall. People can either print it off at home.
Just use your phone. I never.
Print it off at home. Hold on, let me get back on track. here. People can either print it off at home or take a picture of it with their phone when they arrive.
Yeah.
If
I
you
never pick it up.
It's on the website.
which is where I printed mine. If you feel that we must print them, do black and white instead of color copies, which are about 4 times the cost of black and white. That's based on a quote from Office Max of 62 cents versus 16 cents as of 2 days ago.
And that's not the only meeting. They have planning commission meeting, which
They have this meeting.
City council and other meetings. Okay. Thank you. Let me finish this paragraph. Sure. Fit all on one side of one page, never 2 sides. I understand maybe exceptions where you have 30 things you gotta talk about, even with a small font. That's my suggestion. Either don't print them, you have to do black and white. There's some cost savings. Granted, it's not $100,000 a year, but hey, it all adds up. Okay.
So hang on before you go to your next one then. Jamie, is there a government?
Yeah, I don't know, I'd have to default to the recorder. To know
Okay,
if it's required.
Okay, so maybe we
Not
need to
everybody
check if
carries a phone, that
if
kind of
it's
thing.
required.
That we have a certain
Yeah,
quantity of
yeah.
papers on the table every time.
Who knows? The government has some, I mean, let's just, before we go to the council and then come
Find
back
out.
at us with that, let's just make sure. And that would be Susan, right?
I mean, I like your idea of maybe like a QR code or something like that, but, you know, this kind of
I still. Cause some churches still print their thing out, and it's like, all you have to do is, like you said, a QR code, or it's on their website, you know?
Yeah.
Especially after COVID, when everybody was zooming in or whatever.
There are a lot of old people in this city and they.
This is true,
I
and
mean,
that's why.
until they all die off, you people are just gonna have to
All the
tolerate
people die off.
us.
We got all the computers
Well,
from.
I am thankful that Jamie printed this for me, so
Do you think I am paperless and you insane? Yes.
I'm glad you printed it. Thank you.
I am the first paper person in the universe. Yeah.
It
Okay.
was front and back, black and white.
Yeah, that I do like. I did notice that and I appreciated it.
Okay. 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 Next question: if we need flock cameras in our city,
Oh, yeah.
It's a done deal. I think it's great to bring it up.
allow me to
But
read
my
my
understanding,
thing.
it's a done deal.
As I recall, the mayor said, we want to give the police every tool they need to do their job. Of course, but what is real need? We currently have 10 flock cameras in operation. Open parentheses, which surprised me after hearing the sales pitch by the flock a few weeks ago. I thought he was trying to talk us into installing their cameras, only to find out later that we already have 10 of them installed and running. So what was the point of the sales pitch? Close parentheses.
Buy
I'll
more.
tell you why. Because Ben and I complained.
Yep.
So me, that's a civil liberties thing. I just don't like, I mean, other countries have cameras everywhere
Yep.
and you're really not, okay, and you're selling that to big data so they can monitor your every, yeah, so.
Allow me to finish my paragraph. This is probably the longest paragraph, so just kind of bear with me for about 2 more minutes, please. So what was the point of the sales pitch? Are 10 enough? Next year, are we going to think we need another 1 or 2 in a strategic area? Why not 8 or 9 more? Where does it stop? And what about the companion Raven system offered by the same company?
Remind me what that is.
That's the next half of the
Oh, okay.
sentence. And what about the companion Raven system offered by the same company to detect and map gunshots? Do we think we need that too? I called the company. And while she could not give me a price, she said it is more expensive and it's calculated on a per square mile basis. Next paragraph. I looked up the 10 safest cities in Utah on a few random websites. There were 3 cities that appeared, by the way, I didn't write this. I probably should have said along with North Ogden. There were 3 cities that appeared in all of the top 10 lists of Safewise.com, ABC.com, and NewHomeSource.com. They were Lone Peak, Syracuse, and Spanish Fork. So I called them and asked if they had flock cameras. Lone Peak, no. Syracuse, no. Spanish Fork, No, but they have 8 on order. So
All
how,
3 have them on order?
Lone
Spanish
Peak was
Fork.
no period.
Okay.
But then they didn't volunteer. I didn't ask. I didn't try to plan. I just said, do you have any kind of surveillance cameras in your city? They said, no, we don't, but we have a couple of DOT traffic cameras. That, she volunteered that. But the answer was no, no, and no. Except for the Spanish Fork. They said they've ordered 8 of them and they're gonna put them in. And it was, I kept notes on who I talked to. I think it was the police. I forget if it was an officer or the chief. He said, and if they work out, great. If not, they can come get their cameras. Unquote. Anyway, so 3 cities. Those are the answers. Continue on with whatever. So how did these 3 cities get to be all, get to be on all of these top 10 lists? It wasn't because they had flock system cameras. As we all know, we had a shooting last week, and that was with 10 flock cameras installed. Did they prevent it? I recommend you take them out and save the money. Spend the $25,000 a year on something better. And that's it. Thank you for listening.
And
Next,
Spanish Fork is not even gonna get as many as us, and they have almost twice the population. Don't shush me. Did you just? tell me?
my lips smacked when I was drawing
Okay.
breath too. Okay, next suggestion. Turn off vehicles while stopped or parked. Use the sun shield instead.
Police cars when they're parked to.
Oh,
catch scooters.
I was at the library last year. I went in, did my business. I observed there was a police car sitting there idling, nobody in it.
Oh, really?
In the parking lot next to the police station, you know. I went in and did my business and came out and it was still there idling. I said, that doesn't set well with me. It's my tax money going up in fumes. I don't know how many people do that, but and I know us people in general are pretty wasteful. Go to the grocery store, there's somebody sitting out there playing on their phone while their other person is in buying groceries, and they sit there for a long time idling. So it's not just city employees.
but there is a law, isn't there?
The idle free, well, there's some encouragement. there's
Some
stickers.
states, yes.
Okay.
California, maybe.
Okay, my point is, an individual person is entitled, I suppose, has the freedom to leave their car idling while somebody goes in to buy groceries or whatever. But this is not an individual person. This is an organization, a business, a city that's spending yours and my taxpayer dollars. And I'm suggesting that they, meaning the city employees, don't leave their cars idling unnecessarily. Just a fairly simple suggestion. Turn off your vehicles when you don't have to have them running. Okay,
Probably negligible cost savings.
it all adds up, my friend. And it's kind of an attitude thing too, you know.
Okay, but you have to let him share his,
That's true.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm just saying, if you quantify some of these things, they're not, yeah. It's really hard and it's probably not gonna be what you think it's gonna be.
This one I already mentioned about the energy evaluation, so we'll skip it. Next is really a question. Is there some kind of savings available if we changed this new All West fiber optic cable company? Don't know.
For the city to change to that?
Nope.
Okay.
I already looked at the cost. The cost is negligible with Comcast to this guy.
For
I get
an
over it.
individual residence.
I'm just wondering how they're gonna pay for their infrastructure, because they're not if they were less or competitive.
Peak speed, it was
Yeah.
more expensive.
What was the name of that company?
All this, they're putting in fiber lines all over the place.
Okay, so really, that's a question, a possible opportunity. Don't know. Chris, you've already said. the
Well,
answer is
for
no,
me,
but
it's,
for you,
it's,
it was a
you know,
wash.
yeah.
All right, but I've asked the question.
Yeah, and we, you know,
Thank
we
you
can
for
ask the question and
Fiber.
you answer and then decide to put it on the recommendations
Or
or
not.
not.
and then give it a cut rate.
Okay. Maybe I shouldn't have written this, but here we go. Please further explain what is meant by green waste. Does it include grass clippings from those who do not mulch their own and just dump it in the trash can?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. Here comes my
Or
suggestion.
twigs or
What-
anything.
what-
yeah,
what do you
or
mean?
Weeds or.
No, you're saying the green waste pit? Or
I'm
you-
thinking the trash cans, the weekly cans.
Because some people are, in the summertime, they use both of their garbage cans because they put
grass
their
clippings.
grass clippings and weeds and that kind of stuff in it.
Which doubles the.
And so it doubles the pickup.
Right.
Okay, so here comes
So if
my.
they don't allow that, then would we save on picking up extra garbage? cans?
Because it's calculated based on weight, I think.
So right now, we're not recycling. So if you put it in either can, it's going to the landfill. So I don't get the question.
Okay, so here,
Because there would be two garbage cans instead of one, because you need that extra one for your lawn clippings and stuff.
in the summer,
If they didn't allow lawn clippings, then most of those people, don't you put your lawn clippings and stuff in your garbage can? Was
In
it
the
you
one that I
or-
have.
Oh, in one. Most people, I guess, use two garbage cans, and
Well-
one they use for lawn clippings. If we don't allow that, then there would not be two garbage cans picked up at that house. That would save a certain amount of money.
let me read the real, you've answered my question. And now here comes a suggestion.
Okay.
Raise the price more. I understand the second can already costs more than the first, I think, but raise the price more on the second can in order to encourage people to mulch their own clippings and to reduce other kinds of waste.
Or make the green waste free instead of a punch pass.
Yeah.
But that means you gotta carry your crap over, because I can't hold it, just the way. it is.
Okay. Thank you for listening to my suggestion.
So is that so the suggestion is raise the fee on the second can?
Yeah, that's what it kind of boils down to. You know,
So
when you talk to people, listen, and
you're talking about the second can
The second-
that's black and not blue?
Correct.
Because we already have a blue can from back when we were used to
That's
recycle.
every other, yeah.
It was an every other week pickup. And it's still an every other week pickup.
Some people do have two black cans.
I
Correct.
think you can
and
pay extra.
some have two blue cans.
Oh,
You want
okay.
the second can price raised.
regardless of color, I think.
Because what she's saying is that people will get an extra can for the summer, dump all that in there and then return it.
Mhm.
So then there's an extra pickup at those.
They have talked about that during council.
But I think the second
So-
can is already quite a bit.
How do you police that unless you make them turn in their second can?
Or upcharging them.
Raise the cost high enough to where they just do what
Don't
you
want
want them to do.
Well,
Give
we,
them a refund
citizens
charge.
have bought their cans already, right? So they own the can.
No, I don't buy my can.
And they have
Said
to
if
pay
you-
for the
You
replacement.
pay for the can, but when,
But we
if
don't
you
own
were
it.
to move, yes, we go pick up the can.
Your first can you don't pay.
It's
for.
more like, I don't want to call it an impact fee, but it's like the,
It's part of the building permit.
yeah, it's just part, yeah. So new homeowners, it's part of your building permit fee, the new can shows up on your doorstep.
So you've already paid for, if you bought an existing home, it's already been paid for. that's-
Right.
Yeah. That's why
But
you have
but
to-
So-
the person doesn't own that can.
Right.
You take it with you,
Right.
correct?
So we used to have plastic bins, like 3 plastic bins for different types of
Separate
recycles.
recycling.
That's a long time.
Yeah, and I still have
Well, how
those, by
about,
the
how
way.
about the metal galvanized cans? You got those?
No, I don't have those, but
That's all.
the city said, no, we're doing away with that 3-box thing and we're gonna give you this blue can. And then, so then we have the blue can still, and they're still doing the blue can pickup every other week. But it's not really going to recycle.
There's an idea, just.
But my family is still throwing all the recycle in the blue can.
Just by habit.
And it would
By
be
habit.
nice if we could go back to it, but it's not cost efficient and it's not, things are truly not recycled.
Yeah.
So what if?
But so what we were talking, I'm just trying to figure out what this proposal is. You're saying, okay, you citizens that have 2 cans,
2 black cans.
no, 2 cans, period,
I-
because it's all going the same spot.
Okay,
That's
then
a
I
great,
misconfused.
that's a great point, and I hadn't really thought about that, but the idea that I had when I wrote this was to, every residence has 1 can. Period. We're not talking color, just 1 can. And if you have a second can, it costs you more than your first can. Whether it's black or blue.
I think you have a revolt.
The state, or the city itself has no place to store those cans, that's why they didn't collect them. They have no place to store them. If they come and got everybody's recycling can, because we only need 1 at our home, the city has no place to put those cans.
So if you
That's why
elect
they
to
did
stop
not
paying
collect.
for it, they won't come and pick it up.
So the blue
The
can
blue
is
can.
automatic, so you get one of each, it's automatic, and then she's right. That was why we didn't go pick them up, because there was no place to store them in hopes of recycling to come back.
And they check it every year and it's just never feasible to go back to it.
We have like 5-6 minutes before.
So can we-
So I
yeah.
can reset. the-
Almost,
Yeah.
I'm almost at the end, I'm down here.
You're good.
Well,
Okay.
we need to figure out what we're gonna do.
Well, we have-
Because we've gone through Doug's list, we still have everyone else and we're running out of weeks. Do we want to not skip a week and meet again next week to get everybody?
What is our deadline for having our
Yeah, when do we
submissions
have to
submitted?
record?
June,
The budget is hopefully adopted on June 13th,
so we have to have.
or at least the public hearing is on June 13th.
Yeah, we have to have our list, have our presentation ready, present it to the council before that date. So the end of,
So what is that?
May.
26? I don't, oh, I do. have a
So
phone.
we
You said
have,
you don't have a phone.
if we meet in 2 weeks, that's the 17th. And then if we can meet again in 2 weeks, that's the 24th. And if we have to have this done by the 26th.
When's the next?
okay, are you gonna be able to between the 20, well, and then when are we gonna present to the council?
I don't know
The
what.
next council meeting is the 9th, when the tentative is adopted.
23rd is the next one after that. So to me,
May
I would,
9th and May 23rd?
yep, I would say the 23rd would do it. That's just my
Do it on the 23rd.
because if you,
So then we
Present.
need to be all done on the 17th so that it can be whatever you do your magic stuff, because I'm not, that's not me. That-
what we've said so far today, I can do a lot of the magic. I can just stick in the fine tuning.
Okay,
The fine tuning, I've done a briefing in less than 25 minutes, but it just depends on what we're, if everybody's on board, it's simple. So-
I don't have a long list. So my list won't change.
I think from what Doug is, I think for the most
He's
part,
covered
it's
all
getting
the rules.
the specific number so that we can rack and stack. There was three that I saw that had a specific number, the flock cameras, the street sweeper, and
yeah,
the magazine. The other ones either did not have a specific or it was a question.
But we have to, before we can put the street sweeper on our list, we have to find out if it's a state law that the streets have to be swept.
that way, by a professional.
Because there's no point in putting it on there if they say, well, sorry, that's.
That'd be
state
a
law.
question our neighborhood, legal counsel.
Yeah.
would answer probably.
And I have a list of stuff that needs to be asked, either by Susan or John or
So if we just meet again in 2 weeks, we only have one more meeting before we want to present.
No, if we meet again in 2 weeks, that's it.
Yeah, that's.
Next week, or the next time we meet, we should be fine tuning things.
That would be our
Okay.
last meeting.
Then that's gonna be the 17th, so that means to be able to fine tune on the 17th, we need to meet next week also.
But I won't be here, but yeah,
You won't be here.
I'll be in Hawaii.
Could we put our thoughts together and email them to each other? And
I don't know.
it's hard to have a discussion via
Yeah.
email.
Well, it is. It is, and one of my issues is I don't want my name on the recommendation. I don't agree with. And if we do it by email, that defeats the point of being able to discuss.
Who does not want to be here next week?
I don't
Doesn't
think
want
it's.
to.
I don't see these
Somebody
things.
said, I don't want to be here next week.
Who can't be here next week?
Next week would be the 17th. Oh,
No,
no.
the 10th. Because I don't want us to get till the last meeting
And be
and
unprepared.
we're, yeah, I don't, because I'm not gonna stand before the council like the lady that did the Cherry Days presentation. If I'm that ill prepared, I won't stand up.
There might be opportunity to change the day. I don't know that the room is.
Okay.
or anything on a Monday or next Tuesday or something like that, if that helps you.
Does that,
All
will it,
No, that, remember, we had that
Yeah.
issue. It's on
I
Wednesday because everybody.
Yeah.
came on Wednesday.
Most people.
Well, yes, more people.
Almost
can come on
everybody.
Wednesday.
To me, I can do most of this stuff and I can send out a rough draft before I take off Friday. So, yeah, but just to have my thoughts at least in a presentation format, and like I said, it's not going to be in like to your point is have, and there's a way to do it in the notes on the briefing so that it's not on the briefing, it's in the notes so that you could print that out separately. Anyway, I can take a hack at it and then you guys can hack the crap out of it.
I think it's good to have something to
Hack on.
target to chop at.
Yeah, that's true.
I love red lighting. It's my favorite.
Yeah. Well, you gotta
Smiling.
start somewhere, because if you don't,
hey, we're gonna get kicked out. Do we have a decision?
And then next week,
We'll go for next week because I'd rather do the sacrifice and be more prepared. We haven't come this far just to fall down 5 yards from the finish line.
No, I wasn't saying, no. That
So
wasn't-
meeting next week.
I'm
I
good with it.
move that we have a meeting next week. Do I hear a
I
second?
said,
Any votes?
Are you gonna be,
He can't, but he can do some prep work.
okay, but I think, well, I think you've given us,
I don't think we need anything other than the room, right? Or do you have to
right, unless, Don
Zoom in
wants
or
to
whatever?
YouTube it, but the only thing, but I don't.
yeah.
I think Jamie's done her job.
Yes.
Picked her brain for well.
Kept her over
Yeah.
hours?
I really wasn't picking on you when I said to do copies in black and white instead of color. I hope you weren't saying, done. That's what we
That's
were.
exactly what it's like.
Oh, I heard worse than that, sorry.
So,
Okay,
decision,
yeah, next week,
same time,
unless,
same bat channel.
we talk to John and it's not available, and
And the homework-
then, if that's the case, then, whether Phil is happy about it or not, we may have to go like to the library, yeah.
But
because-
but there's specific things that we need quantified. You can't just say change or don't do it has to me,
Yeah.
everything should have a price tag. on it.
Yeah. And do
Remember
you
that.
want to send somebody your list?
Yeah,
For
do you
next
have a list
week?
of recommendations?
Yours-
I wrote everything down, yeah. I
No,
got
do
the,
you have your
Your
own
own things
personal
that you come up-
recommendation list?
You don't like it, but yeah.
Okay, do you want to just?
I don't
so
care
we
if I
have
don't
that
like it.
to
I wanna
discuss
hear it.
next
The big
week?
one I have is the
Okay.
flood camera.
Next week, and the homework assignment is to have something to.
Yeah, everyone come with
There's
your.
one
Yeah.
item or 10, whatever.